Right, let's get going with this week's Street Talk then. And as I just alluded to, I didn't think Corrie was all that great this week. The first 2 weeks that we were able to kind of binge them on the hub, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I didn't particularly mind it, because like some people were saying, oh, it's just like watching a big feature film of Coronation Street, and you know, when it's really great and you want to find out what happens next, you get a chance to blah 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 blah. But yeah, I found it a slog this week. I didn't find much to grip me particularly. Am I alone in this? How did you enjoy this week's episode?
I thought it was fine. You just kept zoning out and saying, what happened?
It's just that the mix of stories didn't work for me. I know that I've been enjoying the Tyrone and Alina and Fizz story, but I don't know, it just didn't hit the mark with me this week. And I think I'd been spoiled by a few things that were going to happen this week as well. Did you know much about...
What?
Well, I'd seen that Alina actually was pregnant.
Oh.
The kiss I'd read...
When did you find that out?
Saturday maybe,
because the last time we did the podcast you were adamant that she was just ill.
I know, I was really surprised when I read that, but I wish I'd been surprised by watching it. So I knew about that. I knew that Gail was going to have a heart attack.
Where did you find this out?
I just go scrolling around the internet. Sometimes it's trying to find, you know, news or research or whatever for the podcast, and this week was particularly bad for avoiding spoilers. I was moaning before the ITV Hub stuff happened that I'd be seeing spoilers all week if we didn't watch them as soon as they aired on TV, and fair play to the Coronation Street fans out there. I think everyone's been bloody good at keeping their lips sealed during the week, because it's true, and thank you very much, Coronation.
We've had this conversation before about 2 times already about it's not a secret. People shouldn't feel obliged to keep quiet about what's happened on the hub. The only place where you're not allowed, as far as I'm concerned, to talk about things that have happened on the hub is our Facebook group, because we ask that people only talk about things that have been aired in the UK, and by that I mean on television, not on the hub. So you keep saying, oh, it's really great, everyone's not saying anything, but really, as I said to you twice already on this podcast, it is not a good thing that people are not talking about the show.
I think people are being respectful of...
it
seems
self-defeating for Coronation Street then.
It seems like the chats are still happening, you know, when Coronation Street is on. It feels like a lot of people are watching it when it's on, or some people watching it again.
I think you underestimate how many people watch the football. I think you think that it's like a weird thing to watch football, but I think most people watch the football. So they just kind of weave it into that. So it's much more natural for them to watch it. I think, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of football, we got a bit of that in this week's Corrie, didn't we? We got James Bailey's storyline back again, but that's not going to be our main story this week. We're gonna kick things off, and I guess that's a footballing reference, with Alina pops a bun in the oven.
Don't pretend you don't know that kicking off is to do with football.
I don't know anything about football. So we got Alina's story. We got the bailout story, which is a story we called it about 2 years ago when this first started. We have used bailout. He's been out to various people at various points in the past 24 months or so, and now it's all completely out in public. After that, heart plattack. Yep. Gail's had a heart attack, everybody, this week. Slash factory, because there's stuff going on at the factory as well, and that's maybe related, so I'm tying that all in as well. We're going to talk about Ryan being a DJ again. I haven't got a storyline title for that. I've not been able to whip one up in the last few hours that we've been watching it. Then we had a return to the Rovers changeovers story, before finishing things off with a bit of more of summer's dire straits. Gemma, I am going to pass over to you this week to start off with the main story, or the Alina story. And this week, Corrie's not been on yet, has it? It's Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, I think, that this is actually on the telly. So for anyone who's listening at home that isn't following along or whatever, yes, Tuesday. And please excuse us if we say Monday at any point, because we're used to it.
I think Tuesday's when there's the England versus Germany match, I think.
Is it? Is England playing Germany, are they? Yeah, I didn't know that.
One thing I just want to say about this week in general was that I really felt as though all of the scenes were slightly too long.
There were a few lengthy scenes this week, weren't there? Like Gail and Audrey in the hospital. And character-based.
Like, I felt like a lot of... normally I would say nothing happened then. You know, this scene was basically a waste of time. But I do like the sort of character-building scenes But I do just think there were a lot of them, and they all seem to be dragging it out a little bit. Like, for example, the Gail and Audrey in the hospital scene was really, really long. There was the Maria and Fizz scene at the end of this episode, Friday's episode. Again, just felt a bit too long. But I don't want to complain too much about it, because I like that kind of thing.
Don't want to complain about character scenes. It just felt
a bit slow. I don't know what it was, because I would normally welcome all of these things. It just felt like it all felt slightly flat.
I think maybe it just didn't. To me, the scripts didn't seem to have the wit and the spark that was needed. There weren't so many zingers, not many quotable lines this week.
No, true.
You had Kirk who didn't understand what a nail file was or something.
That was all right.
Yeah, it was classic Kirk, and I'll say no more.
Okay, right. So I'll tell you what happened with Alina.
Do tell me.
Yeah,
I think I need telling. Honestly,
you do. I think
so many times we were watching this earlier this evening. I was like, "What's happened then, Joe? What happened in that scene?" Go on then.
So on Tuesday, Alina pops a bun in the oven storyline. She's maudlin. She tells Emma about Kirsty, and she sympathises with Tyrone having to go through his ex dying, and relates it to Seb. And he has to go and tell Ruby about it, but and she offers to go with him, but he declines. Yeah,
so she's a bit sad at the beginning of the episode, because she's still wondering whether she's pregnant or not after Alina popped the idea in her head last week. So she knows that
popped the idea.
Yeah, no, I think Emma told Alina, didn't she? Oh, maybe you're pregnant, and so she's been mulling on this over the weekend. Maybe
just buy a pregnancy test.
She does.
I've said this before on the show, but you can get them on Amazon. You can get the ones that the NHS use, really, 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 really cheap.
What, do you remember that scene where this week where Alina had the pregnancy test and it fell out of her bag onto the floor?
Ridiculous.
And nobody saw it.
No.
That was the biggest suspension of disbelief there.
Do you think it was just a sort of, was it a meta? Was it like an in-joke?
Yeah.
Don't know. Right, so Tyrone goes over to number 9 to tell Ruby, and Fizz also mentions that they've got to go and see George to organise this funeral.
For Kirsty.
Now, is it in the factory, or is it in the... I can't remember, but Sally's around Alina,
in the factory.
And she tells Alina about Kirsty, because she had no idea that Kirsty was abusive. She didn't know the history at all, so she was completely blindsided by this revelation. It's a bit crap that Tyrone had never mentioned it at all. I can understand why he didn't, but at the same time, it's still a bit... It's not nice.
You'd have thought Alina. It would have come up. That's all.
It just goes to show you how little they know each other and how fast this whole thing has moved. Because how long did you say they were going out? Like, they've been going out for like 2 months now.
Yeah.
Okay, our alarm bells are just going off. Tyrone and Fizz sit Ruby down, who has grown into a woman. She's like, "Sorry, parents, I need you to hurry up because I've got to go for my business meetings, my business factory." No, she's not. She just looks big because we haven't seen her for a while, and children do grow up when you're not looking. They tell her about the woman who grew her in her tummy, who's the mum, even though Fizz is her forever mum.
Oh, yes, her forever mum.
And Ruby's like, okay.
Yeah,
they have to say, well, yeah, she's like, whatever.
We didn't get a mega reaction from Ruby there, did we?
I think that was fairly appropriate. They sort of say to her, it's really sad, okay? And she's like, yeah, right, okay.
Were they just telling the actress there, this is a sad scene that you're in, child?
She nods, and so they decide to go to the park so that she can think about whether she's sad or not. I mean, Ruby is no hope, is she? Because if Hope...
Hopeless.
If Hope had been told about this, she'd be immediately calculating how much ice cream can I get out of this.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sad. Oh, I would like to have a present. I would like to watch television. Can we have a sleepover? I want a rainbow flavoured candy floss.
Yeah. Ruby's
just like, whatever, go to the park.
There's no reason why she should have been like mega sad, really.
She's only going to really get what this means as she grows older.
Yeah, come back in 6-7 years time when she has
really
that teenage angst attack.
Yeah. So she's still whatever about it. Alina there is dropping her pregnancy test, looks over and sees Fizz and Tyrone talking together and gets really mad. And when Tyrone returns home to her, she's looking really annoyed and she's in a snit with him about being with Fizz. She's like, oh, you spend all your time with Fizz and having happy families. And I found out that's all about Kirsty and you didn't tell me. And Tyrone's like, well, it's hard to talk about, to be honest. And this is all really hard.
And she says, what, even with me? And he's like, yeah, with... Yeah.
Yeah, because you weren't there.
He will talk to Fizz.
Fizz saw exactly what happened.
She lived through it.
And there's still the stigma of being a male victim of domestic abuse, unfortunately. And Tyrone has got a lot to think about with that. And I don't, for all the best will in the world, Alina's the young.
He's thinking tough guys on motorbikes don't get beaten around by their partners,
perhaps he's embarrassed and he doesn't want to make Alina think less of him.
I'm sure that it's a part of his life that he wants to forget. Yeah, put under the carpet.
Well, he shouldn't be embarrassed, but I can see why he would feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make out that he should be embarrassed. I'm just saying. So anyway, she's crying in the bedroom, and then she comes out so that Tyrone can have a go at her a little bit about her being immature, basically. And then she reveals that she's pregnant. I can't remember how it came up now.
I don't know.
No.
In the most dramatic way possible,
He's completely stunned, and she's waiting to find out what he thinks. And he just doesn't really say anything. And she's like, well, I can tell you're not happy because you didn't say you're happy. And he says, all right, I've got to go. I've got to meet this, got to do this funeral thing. I'll talk about it later. So this was honestly, there's no really good time to break news like this if it's going to be perhaps bad news.
But is it bad news? That's what she was kind of floating there, wasn't she?
Well, I know, but he's already got a lot of stuff on his mind. She's obviously emotional because she's going to be the one that's carrying this child, and now she's thinking he doesn't actually even want a baby with me. But why on earth break it to him right in between this revelation that he was abused by his ex, who's now dead, and then having to go to see the blimmin' funeral director? She really did not pick the best time.
I think because he was winding her up, he was having a go at her, and she couldn't keep her mouth closed, could she? She couldn't keep her legs closed.
No, rude. Tyrone goes to the undertakers, and they're basically like, stick her in a cardboard box and chuck her in the ground.
Yeah, they want something nice and cheap, don't they? All the way through this beginning part of the week, the writers are going to town to make out how understanding and lovely and nice Fizz is, aren't they? And supportive of Tyrone.
This is completely within her.
Yeah, I think so.
Personality, and she's just helping him out because
he's clearly very out of sorts and distracted during this meeting with George, and Fizz is kind of taken over, isn't she?
They might not be going out with each other anymore, but they're still family.
Yeah, exactly. So cardboard coffin, which Fizz wonders whether it's going to fall apart. I think she forgot that Hayley had a cardboard coffin, her friend from work.
Yeah. So they just...
Maybe it was the proper economy model. Literally,
it literally just says,
recycled brown box from Underworld. Yeah, probably is one of Underworld's older rejects, isn't it? George goes fishing around in the bins.
What's that box? Well, it says thongs, but I think it's Kirsty. They go out. Fizz and Tyrone go outside, and Fizz is like, "Look, I'm really sorry. I know I used the kids against you. Let's just sort out proper joint custody, 50-50. You're the only dad you've got, and they're the only kids you've got." Of course, you would say that right now.
Only one.
And he just walks off. He doesn't even say anything. He literally just turns around and walks off.
He didn't say, well, actually.
Evelyn overhears Emma blabbing about Alina being queasy and stuff. And she's like, oh, God. Emma leaves, and Evelyn finds out from Tyrone
that she is indeed up the duff.
Yeah. She starts lecturing, going, oh, yeah, Alina's probably done it on purpose to ensnare you. I mean, war a catch. He's like, no, nobody would do such a thing. Stay out of it, Nana, or whatever he calls her.
Because Evelyn says, haven't you heard of contraception? And it's like, Nana.
Tyrone goes home to Alina. Everything's a bit awkward. He says, I'm really sorry. I was horrible to you earlier. How are you feeling about it? And she says, I hadn't even thought about it. It doesn't really make sense to have a baby now. And then she starts to talk about it, and she's very sweet. She says, oh, when I saw the little blue line, I was so excited about me being a mother and having a baby. It's so exciting. And Tyrone's like won over almost immediately. Like, she's talking about seeing a postcard and wanting to go to Brighton for the weekend or something. Not like 18 years of hard labour.
Yeah, Tyrone says, you're right, this whole thing has been crazy. Let's carry on being crazy.
Yeah, why be sensible now? Let's have the baby. And Alina's like,
things couldn't get any worse.
Everyone. And she gets her phone out and Tyrone's like, no, we should wait until the 12-week scan. So, on Wednesday, it's the funeral for Kirsty. He's looking for a tie.
He's tieless tie, isn't he?
Yeah, he can't find one. She's like, Ty would be a great name. Or did he say that? I can't remember. She's got morning sickness still. She's not going to go with him because she's feeling unwell. So Tyrone goes out looking for a tie, asks Evelyn, and she got one. She's like, no, we don't sell ties.
Literally, the number of deaths and funerals and everything they've had on the street, you could literally knock on any door. And some people would have a whole wardrobe sort of black ties for every occasion. Or they could just
sell them at the corner shop.
Yeah, they might as well. Evelyn scoffed at the fact that, of course we haven't got ties, but we really should.
They should, or George should just have like a drawer full of ties.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they've got stuff like that. And if they don't, why not include it in the package as one for you, Todd?
Maybe they go off to get one from John Lindsay. Has he been released from prison yet? Is he back in the whole tie selling game?
So anyway, he's telling Evelyn he doesn't have a tie, and Viz overhears that Alina's not coming to the funeral because she's sick. So she sees him later and gives him a tie that belongs to him anyway, or maybe it's Jack, she can't remember.
She says it was back her wardrobe.
Yeah, she found it. And she says, look, I'll go to the funeral with you. So they go off to we don't see it, but they come back.
Yet another funeral we have to play out in our imaginations.
Been a lot recently, hasn't there?
Seb, Ted, yeah.
Now Kirsty. Come back, there were only 6 people there. And Fizz invites him in for a drink. And they sort of relax and he's drinking a beer and she's saying, we'll always be linked together, I'll be there for you. And Tyrone gets very uncomfortable and leaves. And then Fizz tells Evelyn about the fact that she was having a nice chat with Tyrone earlier, and Evelyn's like, well, let's just hope that you guys stay civil with one another, because she obviously knows, but Fizz
gotta keep it a secret.
Yeah,
much more dramatic if you keep it a secret, Evelyn.
There's got to be that scene where Fizz finds out and gets mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, on Friday, Alina's got this midwife appointment, but it clashes with Tyrone going to the solicitor to talk about Kirsty's probate, and she says I'll go with you, but Fizz is going instead. So Alina's like a bit annoyed because she feels put out of her place.
Yeah, because I think it was the solicitor's appointment, and then the clinic is literally straight after.
Yeah.
If only there was a solicitor's and a clinic on the same street, literally.
Only there's a way of doing it.
10 metres away from each other. Oh, wait.
Evelyn and Maria think Fizz is a bit foolish for still getting involved in Tyrone's life. Then Evelyn sees Alina outside the medical centre, and she's basically says, Tyrone, I think, is a bit worried about the fact that you're pregnant, like, as anyone would be, really, in his situation. Tyrone and Fizz come out of the lawyer's office and he's like, I've got to go meet up with Alina for lunch, and he tries to lose her, but he doesn't manage to because she stomps after him.
Yeah,
he's telling her that he's going to go and eat chips for lunch. She's like, I want chips. It's exactly what I would do. I would not lose. I would not lose a man who was off to buy chips for lunch.
I'll get some chips in the old. Maybe they'll get some drugs there as well. Hear that they do both.
Yeah, can I have extra salt, please? So she follows him, and then she sees them both going into the medical centre together, and she's like, what's wrong with you? And Tyrone and Alina look at each other like, oh no. And then
jigs up.
And then Tyrone says, well, Alina's got an appointment with the midwife. And Fizz is like, you what?
So much for keeping that quiet for 12 weeks.
Well, exactly. She storms off. Evelyn follows back at home. She's moaning about how upset she is. And Evelyn's talking and she's not really giving anything away. And I was thinking to myself, this is quite refreshing, because I thought they were going to have an argument about the fact that Evelyn knew already. So I'm quite glad that Fizz hasn't tackled her about this. And then suddenly she goes, hang on a minute, you knew about this before, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me? And he was like, well, it's not down to me. She's like, oh, you let me go to the funeral and the solicitors with him. I feel used. I feel like a right idiot. And Evelyn's like, look, it's not my fault. It's Tyrone's job to tell you, not me. I thought he would do it himself in his own time. And Fizz's like, you should move out.
I don't blame Evelyn for keeping this quiet.
Of course she should have kept it to herself. It's not her bloody job or her mess.
It's not her secret. She knew, she would have known it would have just made things an awful lot worse, especially with the funeral going on. You don't want this drama blowing up at the same time as well.
And also, Fizz saying, oh, you used me. She volunteered to go and help him out with all this stuff. She wanted to do it.
Yeah.
If she had been mad at him about knowing that Alina was pregnant and not helped him, she would have just felt guilty about it later, because she is a nice person. So anyway, Evelyn goes around to see Tyrone and says, look, now look what's happened. You need to grow up and show some respect for Fizz. Totally agree with her. So Evelyn comes home, and Fizz is there, and she's like...
No, Evelyn goes home, and then Fizz comes home afterwards, and Fizz is like, earlier on I threw you out, what are you doing this?
No, Evelyn comes through the door, and Fizz comes down the stairs.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she says, well, I'll move out, but I am 74, I can't do it right now, so do you mind if you don't make me homeless, please? And then Fizz is like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I'm being overreacting here a little bit, so she puts the kettle on and makes her some peace treaty tea. So I assume the move's off.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
Well, it was kind of ridiculous for her to even say she should move out.
I mean, the people who are on Team Tyrone at the moment were probably foaming at the mouth at this.
She's so evil.
That's not even Fizz's house to throw Evelyn out of. Which it is very true.
It is hilarious, I know. The other thing that's interesting is that they went to see the probate for Kirsty's will, and he's obviously been left some money, but nothing substantial.
No, I think they said she basically hasn't got anything, which is... again, one of the reasons why she had such a cheap funeral.
She had nobody there.
Yeah.
And he's the one that is the person who's responsible, even though, of course, he really shouldn't be. So, I thought that was weird, because that could have been a good opportunity to put the cat among the pigeons, as far as, like, if he got a massive inheritance or something off of Kirsty, and then, Fizz probably wouldn't have thought anything about it until maybe Maria would have said something like, that should have been yours,
Yeah.
If you were still together, then you would have got that. And then maybe Fizz would have started to go, yeah.
I think any money that has come from Kirsty should be going to Ruby, not Tyrone, not Fizz.
No, I agree with you.
But
put it in what's it called? Premium bonds.
Yeah.
So anyway, she puts the kettle on. Alina says to Tyrone that, I know you're so ashamed of me, of the picture of the baby. And he's like, no, I want this more than anything. I love you. And so
Are you sure you don't just fancy me?
Yeah. So she just says, oh, fantastic, let's go and have a lemonade at the pub. And then she has orange juice.
I know. I
was like, this is complete rubbish. I can't watch this anymore. Absolute. Who's in charge of...
Continuity, come on.
Continuity is absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, they go to the pub and they're talking with Kevin, and we find something out about Alina that we didn't know before, namely that she is a bit of a jokester.
Oh, such a prankster.
Along the same lines that I am, in which I say something stupid that's obviously a lie, and then people believe me, and I think I've fooled them, and it's the funniest thing that's ever happened, but nobody else really finds it that funny.
But we also learn that they have this little thing, don't they, between Alina and Tyrone, where he says, oh, tell me about it.
And she goes, I'll tell you all about it. Oh, great. That doesn't sound like it'd get old instantly.
The hours must just fly by.
I know. No wonder Emma is so happy to continue sharing the house with them.
I bet they're begging for a third lockdown, aren't they? Just so they can spend time together,
talking,
entertaining each other with their witty repartee,
like
we do.
Exactly.
They should start a podcast.
You should record it. So one of her funny jokes was, "We will call the baby Kevin," and Kevin's like, really? And she's like, no, stupid name for baby. And Kevin's like, what? Hang on a minute, you've insulted me twice but now. No need for it. Fizz comes in and everything falls silent, like she's just the stranger that's walked into the saloon. And Alina says, oh, you should join us. And Fizz is like, no, I didn't want to. I only came here to meet up with Maria.
She's being very snarky, isn't
Fizz?
Alina's just a bit upset and embarrassed about this. Tyrone's caught in the middle.
They always look embarrassed because they kind of... I mean...
Fizz has been very... she started off a lot more confrontational, didn't she? And she's reined it in a bit over the last few weeks. But now she realises that that Alina's pregnant. She's gone back to...
Every single time Fizz sort of goes, yeah, all right, okay, I'll back off. I'm sorry. It's your life, do what you like. Suddenly something else happens with Tyrone and she's like, oh, for God's sake. It just makes her mad again. Like, I've bought a motorbike, I'm having a baby, we're buying a house. Kirsty's dead. It's always something. So anyway, I don't know.
This is when Maria goes and waits outside.
She waits outside and they go off to the bistro together so they don't have to hang around at the pub. So Alina and Tyrone go home. And Alina's like, oh, I wish I got to Romania and you and my dad can help and here's a gun. And Tyrone's like, what? She's like, no, stupid. Like, how am I supposed to... I don't know anything about Romania.
I don't tell you about my abusive ex-partner. You don't tell me about whether your dad actually has got a gun in the sideboard or not.
Yeah, and it's a bit weird because really... I mean, I guess it's not really weird because they haven't known each other for that long. But I can't imagine, like, having a baby with someone and being like, you should probably meet your parents.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Anyway,
go back to the home country.
And then she says he should sell the bike, and he's like, ha ha ha. She's like, no, I'm not joking. Really, how are they supposed to, like, they bought it to have fun together, and she can't go riding now.
No, not when she's got a bun in the oven.
I mean, she can if she wants to, it's her life, but I would imagine that she wouldn't really want to risk it.
I might advise against it.
It's not down to you to advise a woman about what to do with her body. Maybe she is going
to lose the baby in a freak motorcycling accident.
Maybe.
That sounds like a proper Corrie thing to happen.
Tyrone and Alina in horror bike crash.
Yeah.
That's the headline. Maria and Fizz chat about Tyrone and Alina, and Maria's like, you know, Alina's mad to be getting out of Tyrone. What's she seeing him? And Fizz is like, hang on, what do you mean?
Dopey mechanic, pushing 40.
He's like, yeah, I mean, he's not a catch, is he? And he's got 2 kids, and Fizz is like, no, don't be mean about him. And then Maria's like, don't you end up going back to him? And she says, I will never go back to him, even if I could clip my fingers now and have everything go back to normal, I wouldn't do it. I don't want anything to do with him. I'm going to look to the future. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, it was kind of left as in we don't need to have this storyline for a little bit longer now, wasn't it? Don't you think? It was, it felt like, yeah, we can put this one on ice maybe for, let's say, 12 weeks. Exactly. And then there's some kind of scan drama, which is fine because it has been dominating quite a bit over the last few weeks. Not that I complain or anything, because as I said, it's probably my second favourite storyline of the year after the Seb and Alina one. But just this week, it kind of felt like it was outstaying its welcome a little bit for me. I'm ready to give it a bit of a break.
It's going to raise, I mean... It's a very cliche soap thing to happen, like a very unlikely couple who seem wrong for each other immediately get pregnant, and you're like, this is a bad idea, everyone else can see it but them. But on the other hand, there's a lot of interesting things that could happen as far as culture clashes between Alina and what her idea of how to raise a child might be, because Romanian ideas might be different.
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Also the age gap difference between Tyrone being a bit older might have different ideas about, you know, what you should do and what you shouldn't do with a kid. And also they're talking about having more than one kid as well. Like, out of nowhere.
No more than 2, she says.
Yeah, all right. Let's just get the one out first.
Well, what do you think?
Wow.
Is she going to give birth? What do you reckon? Birth, abortion, or miscarriage? The classic Corrie conundrum as soon as somebody gets pregnant.
Classic bad taste soap
I'm obviously not very good at predicting these things because I was convinced last week on the podcast she wasn't even going to be pregnant. So I
think that she's going to have a baby, and it will be, you know, it's going to be February, March that the baby...
I don't need a baby to be a millstone around Tyrone's neck because I really don't see Tyrone and Alina staying together in the long term. Whether or not he goes back to Fizz, that's another matter, but I can't picture them, you know, setting up home and settling down together for years and just having this kid. It's a very Corrie thing to have. I mean, half the men on the street have got illegitimate children who are spread around the country.
Illegitimate? It's not such a thing anymore.
But Yeah, I could do without it.
No, I
wonder whether she'll like have a miscarriage and then he'll realise that he's had a lucky escape, or
I wonder whether she might say that they have to get married. I don't know if she's traditional. I don't know what Romanians,
she doesn't strike me. I think that maybe that would have even come up already.
She strikes me as
unless she's just going to assume. I mean, I think it'd be quite fun to actually see her parents come over, because this is the first time, or at least the first time in a long time, that her parents have been mentioned, and I think it'd be quite cool to have this Romanian couple coming over. Not that they're allowed at the moment. They go to quarantine for a bit.
Doesn't matter.
And not in Weatherfield, it doesn't. And then kind of demand that Tyrone makes an honest woman out of their daughter. Maybe that would be enough to put him off, because we saw earlier this year just how adverse to the idea of getting married he is, because Fizz wanted to get married to him and he didn't seem fussed about it. I think maybe he'd feel like he was being backed into a corner, maybe. So yeah, I could see that potentially happening. So do you reckon the baby's gonna come, do you?
Yeah, I reckon so.
I don't know. I'm generally wrong about these things, but I'm going to say no. There's no particular reason for them to have an abortion. Although, I mean, maybe he still might want to go back to Fizz, mightn't he? The way that they were talking this week, it did kind of feel like a reconciliation could be still on the cards. No matter what Fizz was saying to Maria at the end of the episodes, I wouldn't put it past Coronation Street to try and put them back together, or for Tyrone to realise, I realise what I'm missing here, and maybe Alina, or maybe Alina can even think that, okay, let's say Fizz gets another boyfriend, yeah? And Alina thinks that she's actually secretly seeing Tyrone, so in a fit of Romanian passion, she gets herself off to the abortion clinic and gets rid of it. I don't know.
I think Coronation Street would be rightfully cautious to use that as a sensational plot trope, which is always been a good staple of soaps, to have the termination storyline, but I just don't think that it should really be used sensationally anymore.
I suppose times have changed a little bit over the years.
I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think it's going to go down there. But I did also think today, speaking of Fizz finding another boyfriend, I just got a twinge of the soap phrase of doom when Fizz and Maria were saying, "Oh, it's so good that we're still friends," and I was thinking, what could that mean? Could Fizz, be seducing Gary over the antiques?
I was glad that Maria reminded us that she and Gary are back together again.
Yeah, we do need reminding of these things.
I can't remember. Are they back together or not?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't see in any reason why Gary would fall for Fizz or vice versa, but
but why not?
They work together, and
exactly, that's all it takes.
And there's been lesser reason than that in the past. So potentially. As I said, I'm ready for it to take a break now.
I thought it was interesting that I can't remember who it was, but they said to Tyrone, "How do you feel if it was the other way around and Fizz was pregnant with a boyfriend?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah."
At first, she says it was like Evelyn, wasn't it? Yeah, she said, "How would you feel if she was on the other foot?" And he's like, "Oh, I'd want air." What did he say? Gas and air, or?
Oh yeah, because they were talking about if you were to. He thought she meant if you were get pregnant. Birth. He goes, "Hopefully, I have gas and air." And Evelyn's like, you idiot! You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up.
I know.
Nobody asked you about that.
Now, Joey, you've done a little bit of research for this, haven't you? Because they were talking about potential names.
Yeah.
And you did a little bit of a look online about top Romanian names. So do you want to read out a few? Because you got them here, and then maybe we can try and pick some for the little pot.
But I don't know how to pronounce some of these. So, basically look like English names, but spelt slightly differently. So
by English,
Andre,
we mean traditional Hebrew usually names.
Well, you don't think that they were called Matthew and Mark in the Bible, do you?
Well, from
Andre, spelled Andrei.
Okay.
David, Alexandru.
Well, it's Andrew. That's
with
nice.
DRU on the end. Gabriel or Gabrielle, I don't know. Mihai, Christian, Stefan, Luca.
What's this one? Ionut.
That's
a good. I wanted to call him Ionut.
No, what's this underneath the T?
I don't know what that little
Darius.
Yeah.
Or for girls, Maria, Elena, Iona, Andrea, Sophia, Alexandra, Antonia, Daria, Anna, and Gabriella.
Oh, look, Alina is actually on there.
Yeah.
Can't call her that.
No. It's Alina.
Okay, well, I'm going to go for Iona if it's a boy, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, so I do apologise to any Romanian listeners. And for a girl, I don't know. Oh, there's Iona, isn't there?
Yeah, I think Iona.
Iona and Iona is what we're going to call these new kids. Do you think that Tyrone actually does want this kid, or is he just kind of going along with it because he knows that he's can't really get out of it now, and he's maybe scared of losing Alina?
I don't know. I don't think it's difficult of a choice for a man to decide whether or not he wants to have a baby or not, because number one, it's not down to him anyway. Number two, he does nowhere near the same amount of work towards raising a child on the whole, and certainly doesn't have to put his body through all of the horrible things that a woman has to put her body through to have a baby.
But there's still quite a lot of responsibility when you're a dad, whether or not you have to, physically give. But what?
To pronounce it is either units or a unit.
Okay, well that'll be all right then.
Yeah,
I think that. I
don't want to put men down, because I know that quite a lot of the people who are listening to this podcast. If you were the sort of person who was a horrible dad, I don't think you'd want to listen to us anyway. But I know that there's some really great dads out there. But biology is undeniable, and women have to do a lot more of the.
Yeah, of course, work. But once. There's still the whole thing about being tied down with a kid, and I think that I just get a feeling that he thinks I'm on this bus now, and I kind of need to go along with it. And if I say no, then I could be left without Alina.
But I don't think
isn't going to take me back.
Neither of them would have picked to have done it.
No, but she seemed genuinely excited about the idea, and he just seems to be going along with it, just like he's going along with the outfit, just like he's going along with the picture, just like he's going along with everything that she's suggesting, the silly phrases on the wall. And it feels like, in a way, the baby is just the latest one of these things that he has to be like, yeah, okay, then why not?
Also, it's another example of how they're at a different point in their lives, because she's right at the beginning of her life and looking forward to all the things that he's already had, like a baby.
I suppose Tyrone has seen that Kevin has been able to, raise a baby, and Kevin wasn't as old as Tyrone. How old was Kevin when he became a dad with Jack? I'm not sure. Older than this, I guess. Must have been.
It's not too late for us, mate.
And he was raising Jack on his own, so I guess Tyrone to think.
He made it look easy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I don't see how, if you loved Alina as much as Tyrone professes to, and I don't think he's lying. How could you look at her
thinks he does
and go, no, we shouldn't really have a baby? Because look, if he views himself as her long-time partner, and she wants a baby, it's now or later, isn't it? And he's not getting any younger.
That's true.
This is the thing. They haven't spoken to each other about most of the big things that you would talk to your partner about if you had known them for longer than 2 months. He's thrown his whole life away with Fizz, and he's starting again from scratch with Alina. Yeah,
I'm interested about the fact that he did say that he loves her, because he knows what love is, because he has loved Fizz. He has loved Maria in the past, I guess.
Kirsty.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember the details of Maria too much, apart from my favourite scene ever. What maybe that was just a teenage crush. Maybe he looks back on that stage of Maria as just being an infatuation, and I wonder whether he thinks, do I feel the same way about Alina as I did with Maria when I was 17, 18, or do I feel the same way about her as I do with Fizz when I was, actually properly in love with her? It just feels like he's kidding himself.
I think it's.
Do I love her in the same way as I love my new yellow bike?
Yeah, but I think it's authentic, but I don't necessarily think it will last that long. But, he's not the first person to ever run off with somebody else in the history of mankind.
No,
you know, you're acting like he's the only man who's ever done this.
I'm just standing up for my fellow blokes here. We're an
what
honest.
Are you saying?
We're an honest
How are you
bunch.
standing up for him?
No, I don't know. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's move on to the next story then. The bailout story, which, like I said earlier,
this was like what?
This story's back again.
Well,
I kind of couldn't remember.
Though?
I couldn't remember before this happened whether he was out publicly or not. So I'm glad that he wasn't. He'd been talked about on social media.
People said that he was gay, and he didn't say yes or no.
He said, he didn't say one way or the other, and he told his manager that he was gay.
That's right. He had to come out
the press at
like,
Weatherfield County had kind of buried the story somehow, and then just didn't get talked about for the next 12 months or so. And now it's out again because it is Pride Month.
I was going to say, literally, I think you can just imagine him at the Corrie office going, right, okay, what's the topics for June? Can we put down football, Pride?
Hang on a minute. Didn't we have a story about that 2 years ago? Wasn't that going to be the big thing?
I thought of an amazing idea.
I kind of feel that sometimes they got like all the Coronation Street stories, like in a filing cabinet or something, and then sometimes when you're looking through your filing cabinet, you find a little screwed up bit of paper at the back, and you go, oh yeah, we were going to do something with this, weren't we? This is really important. When the Baileys came in, this was going to be the big leading story when our new family came in.
And then they say,
and then we kind of forgot about it.
Here's another bit of paper. Let's just open this up. It says DD. It's not even a word. Throw that away.
Here's another bit of paper. It's the report.
Quick, put it back.
This report shows up everywhere. Underneath.
Don't talk about it anymore.
Don't
put it away.
Mention the report.
Never bring it up
Bring
again.
back Wayne. Right, so Tuesday's episode, James tells Michael he's a bit worried because his manager has called a meeting for him, and his form has dipped at the end of last season, which for us, people who don't really understand football, that means he's not been kicking his balls too well.
Okay, that can't be true though.
Why?
Because if he truly had been like a bit crap at the end of last season, the manager's a bit rubbish.
Well, the manager said, yeah, your form has dipped, but
we still want to make you the main person.
It's been getting it better again or something.
I don't understand what this thing about having someone else's shirt means.
What do you mean?
Well, what do you think? Doesn't he already have a shirt?
No, because he's not a proper...
Oh.
He's in the under-team.
He's an underling.
This is where my lack of football knowledge is really showing. He's not in the main gang.
He's in the sub-team.
Yes, maybe, or is he in the youth team? I don't bloody know. But anyway, he goes along to this meeting with the manager in the bistro, and he shares confidential information with him.
Yeah.
Tommy O's only retiring.
What?
Tommy OMG, he's going.
Oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe also that wasn't the main... Look, I think that
Tommy O's secretly been sacked for affiliating himself with Evil Corey.
Yeah, exactly. If they wanted to get the heat off of James for what happens later about him coming out, they should have just released the information that Tommy O was retiring, because that would have taken over the headlines. Nobody would have cared about James.
Well, they must have done, surely, because wasn't the press conference on Wednesday to say, I'm the new signing? I know it was kind of hijacked a bit by I'm gay.
I know, Tommy Orpington's there going, oh, right, bye then.
Yeah.
So I'm not even at the press conference.
Don't even get a bunch of flowers or anything.
Can I just point out, guys, that you could have invited me because you had 3 jugs of water on the desk for one man. What was that about?
Yeah, this massive press conference where the only people there were James's family.
Parents, yeah.
I'm so proud of you, son.
Anyway, carry on, Michael.
Anyway, so James gets Tommy's number 9 shirt.
Wow.
Amazing. He's pretty chuffed by this, and they're going to have a press conference on Wednesday to share it all with the world.
But don't tell anyone before that.
Don't tell anybody. Oh, wait.
Apart from everybody.
He tells Ronnie, who's dead pruffed. He's a mixture of proud and chuffed. He's chowed.
Chowed? I'm so
He's
proud of
very
you.
proud of his nephew James when he hears the news.
He's like, you could be my son as well, I don't know.
And then guess who rocks up at the bistro? It's only Danny.
Now I'd forgotten who this was. I mean, I knew who he
Danny
was,
Baldwin.
but I couldn't remember how they left it. I thought that they hated each other.
I can't remember. Maybe we should have looked this up. Did you ever do a little bit of research on the history of Danny What's-His-Face? This is where it came out about... I think it was just the fact that...
just turned itself off.
I think it was just the fact that James wasn't willing to commit to coming out in the open, and James and Danny didn't want to be
that's
his
right. Danny
secret.
was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to hide."
Yeah, so he
goes
off.
My love. What's the point of going out with a footballer if you can't buy a WAG shirt?
You know what? I wondered whether this story was delayed by COVID, and there's no particular reason why it should have been, apart from the massive snoggeroo that they had in Wednesday's episode. But there's just so many things about this storyline dragging out for so long, and it's kind of picking up where it left a year ago. This very well could have played out last year. I don't know. Anyway, Danny shows up at the bistro. He's getting a new job in France. He's going to be a top chef. James is sad about that.
I think you're quite optimistic to think that an English chef can go to France and teach them anything about cooking.
Yeah, you don't get it. He's really good.
He's really good at it.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the new Zidane Nazir. So Danny offers to have a catch-up drink with James, and they have a lovely little old chinwag, but there are some nasty blokes watching on the next table along, and they're making fun of the fact that these two are having a chat together.
That they were having a drink together, these two lads, who were looking at another two set of lads going, "Oh, they're gay." Like, so are you then?
I think it was the fact that they knew who James was, and they knew that there had been rumours circulating about his sexuality, and they think they've stumbled upon some juicy goss here. So they're kind of nudge, winking away and taking photos on their phone and everything, and doing a little secret tweeting. And Danny and James, meanwhile, are kind of none the wiser about that this is going on. Danny's apparently been beefed up a bit by all this building work that he's been doing, and James says, "Oh yeah, you look quite nice, actually." But Danny kind of spoils the mood a little bit by telling him that he's off to France tomorrow for this chef's job, and he just really came to say goodbye.
So originally James and Danny, I think it was their relationship that made Ed find out that James was
you're
gay.
Right. Yeah.
And then James sent a social media message to
Danny sent. That's
Danny
right.
sent one, and he's like, he accidentally just posted it on Twitter instead of sending him a DM. Going,
that's right. He didn't know how DMs work.
And then everybody found out, and then it says here. This is from Coropedia. Although he tried to ignore the rumours, he eventually, James, plucked up the courage to come out, finding it generated a mixture of abuse and a support from many quarters. So he has already come out.
Oh, I don't know. You're right. That does sound odd, doesn't it? Anyway, let's.
It doesn't. He's went back in again, yeah. And now he's coming back out again.
Yes. Danny says, "Look,
I'm buff.
I can't remember what's going on.
Check out my washboard abs. I'm going to France.
I'm going to France." And James kind of admits that he's been kind of looking a bit on the dating sites and everything, but nobody's ever,
nobody's
tickled his fancy as much as Danny did.
Yeah.
And Danny says, "Look, well, are you going to be serious about this? Are you properly going to come out? Are you going to be my partner in public and everything?" And James refuses still to commit, so Danny leaves. James goes back home. Ed's also been told the news about this promotion by Ronnie, and he's dead excited for him. James tells Michael about Danny, and he ends the episode going, "Oh, I don't think I can ever be happy hiding in the closet like this. What am I going to do?"
You're doing a poor job of it.
Wednesday. So
you've already come out once.
Michael is got something on his mind first thing on Wednesday, because it turns out that James is all over social media again. How James has managed to avoid this?
He said before he didn't look on his phone. He's been hiding his phone.
Oh, did he say? Did he?
Well, he said that to the manager. He's like, "Well, you haven't."
Okay, fair enough then. So James is all over Twitter again, and
people are being mean.
People are being horrible to him about it. He kind of stomps out. And he's gone to go and see Danny one last time, but oh no, Danny's already left for the airport.
Oh, that's it then.
And I can't go to the airport because it's outside the. It's
past the ring road.
Yeah, it's outside the Coronation Street set. So what can I do?
Let's go to the press conference. Where's it being held?
The only hotel in Weatherfield.
Oh, that's convenient.
So the manager wants to talk to James. He's not mad at James at all about all this furore that he's caused on social media this morning, or that he has been part of. It's not his fault, obviously. And he's very understanding as the manager. I don't think it's
the manager. I think it's the press man.
Oh, was it the press man?
And he also was in it before.
Yes.
And hang on a minute, because I looked this up earlier.
He's got a gay brother.
I recognised him. That's right. He's like, I shouldn't tell you this. His name is George Bakari, and he also was in Happy Valley and he was in Years and Years.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought I recognised him, and that's where I recognised him from. But he was also the press officer the last time he came out.
So James says, no, I don't want to postpone this. Let's do it. Let's get it over with. Let's tell everyone that I'm going to be number 9. And Ed gives him some stirring words of support beforehand, saying only you can be captain of your own ship. He's
not the captain of the football team, though.
Not yet. He's you'll make your own decision about what you want to say here, James. So we start speaking to the press. Then Aggie turns up. She's back from seeing Auntie Corona, isn't she?
And it's weird because they don't mention why she was gone, but everybody's like, oh, I'm so glad you're back, as though she had left for, like, she'd been in a mood with them or something.
Well, no, she's gone visiting her.
I know she has, but I'm saying...
She makes a nice surprise
return. The way people react to her being there is bizarre.
Her coming back kind of spurs James on, as does the persistent questions from whoever it was that are asking, the journos via video link, saying,
and they're all smarmy and nasty.
They just want to know about James's sexuality, because all these rumours, they don't care anything about his football.
No,
and the press guys, they're saying, I don't want to talk about this. This isn't what we're here for. No. Anyone get any football questions? Anybody?
I mean, honestly though, they're probably all there going as well, like we are. Oh, I don't know what to ask you about football, to be honest. It's boring, isn't it?
Has it always been your dream to be a footballer?
What do you do when you're 1-0 down? Try a bit harder. How do you decide to win a goal?
How do you prepare for a match?
What's your favourite type of shoelace?
Anyway, James gets fed up with all these personal questions, so he says, I can't do this anymore. And then he commits it. He says, I'm gay and I'm a Pisces and my favourite food's mac and cheese.
And Maggie's watching going, yes, with strawberry jam on the top. Just how Mother always makes it.
The questions still keep coming though. None of them about football. One guy says,
there's
one guy that starts.
Bugger.
It seems like he's understanding. He's like, I'm so proud of you, James. You're so brave coming out like this. By the way, have you got a boyfriend? And then James is like, no, I haven't. I ain't got a boyfriend. I nearly had one.
Oh, I really want one.
You've gone to the airport.
I'm really annoyed by how horrible the journalists were.
Yeah,
but it's also their job, because if they went to a press conference and when a footballer's just come out as gay and they didn't, they were like, no. Then the editor goes, so did you get a good quote about him being gay?
He likes black football. He likes fat black shoelaces. Black shoelaces is his favourite one. Hold the front page.
They said, well, did you get a good quote about him being gay? And the journalist goes, oh no, I was too polite to ask him. How dare you? Of course they're going to ask him. That's the only thing anyone wants to know about. All the people who like watching this go, oh yes, journalists are horrible and smug. You would have read an article about footballer comes out as gay before you would read an article about footballer likes mac and cheese. Wouldn't you?
Well, the fact is that, I mean, when this story came out eons ago, we talked for quite length at just how, serious, just how...
Well, football is homophobic. And
prehistoric the football industry is with regards
to... industry.
I don't know what it is. What is it? In regards to homosexuality. And I remember being very, very surprised and irate about the fact that there are so few out footballers, and how, managers encourage their players to stay in the closet because it's not a good reputation for the club. There's obviously all the abuse that they get on the pitches and everything. So if this happened in real life, this would be huge news, because there's literally one or two in the whole of the league that have come out.
And I don't think there's anybody in the Premiership.
No, I think you're right. And there's been publicists that say, oh yeah, there are definitely more gay footballers. We know some, but they're too scared. They're too scared to come out because of the reaction that they'll get. So this would be huge national front page news.
Well, I mean,
like double
scamming.
Probably
quite interesting to Americans or anyone who follows the NFL, because recently Carl Nassib, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he's the first active NFL player to come out as gay, and that only happened a week ago.
What's NFL again? Is that
National Football League? I don't know. That's their rugby, isn't it?
Yeah, American football.
He's a Raiders defensive lineman, and he came out on Monday on his Instagram.
Oh, really? It was just this week?
Last week, yeah.
Last week. Maybe James was inspired by him.
So it's very topical because, and it's not just an English football or British football or European football problem, or even just a football problem.
It's all tied in with like the toxic
sports.
Masculinity of sports and
also the fans and how horrible they are, and the fact that, you know, you can be attacked for anything. So why wouldn't you just keep it private? Because, you know, but then you feed into the problem by making it seem as though it's normal to everyone be straight. That's not how it is.
No. Anyway, good on you, James. So it all goes as well as it could be, and the Baileys come back. They look like they do one of those boy band cover shots again with James walking down the road, all equally spaced apart, and
everyone's proud. I was kind of glad. I was thinking, this feels very unlikely, like that he would come out at a press conference and he'd only get a few annoying questions and he'd just field them, and then everyone would go home and they'd all have mac and cheese and be happy. But then I thought to myself, there's plenty of time for repercussions later on for him to, you know, struggle and face against people that are going to moan at him, and for a bit of realism to sneak in here. But just for the fact that it's Pride Month, and also it's just nice to have a seat, like an episode where nothing horrible happens to somebody who's just come out.
It starts off as horrible, doesn't it? But
he's come out, and then nothing bad happens.
No.
So I'm you know, there are plenty of stories where somebody comes out and, you know, immediately horrible things happen to them. We don't need another one. We all know the reality.
I imagine that there may be some kind of repercussions.
No, but you see what I'm saying?
6 months' time,
just for the fact
absolutely.
That
it was really,
just to give people that nice dose of happiness.
Yeah, it was a fuzzy kind of feeling in your tum. Although I will say that at the very end of the episode, when Danny shows up with his bottle of wine and his WAG t-shirt and everything, and they go for the snog, and literally everybody on the street happens to be walking past at that time, and they all applaud them. That was a little bit cheesy.
Yeah, so hang on a minute.
So they've come back. Joseph is there.
It's nice to imagine
it is nice
that would happen, but I just felt like it felt a bit like, you know, here's a bit of honey and would you like some sugar on top?
Yeah, just when they had everybody walking down the street. Alya just happened to be walking
I don't like cheesy either. It was a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
What I did like, what I thought was funny, when Tim and Steve come round.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
This was funny, and they've got their canny
shirts on. They're now fanboying at James, aren't they? Like, he's in the big team now.
Yeah.
The way, just the way they were with Tommy Orpington.
Can we go to the pub?
Just Steve's like, I hit him with a baseball bat once. I came after him with a cricket bat or whatever it was. Yeah, that was quite funny.
That was fine. See, that felt to me like... I guess it's because they were just excited about the fact that he had been promoted into football. And I like that better than Joseph saying, well done that you came out. Because I think that perhaps James would agree that he didn't really want to be congratulated for coming out. He just wanted to be accepted.
Yeah.
And so Tim and Steve just going, hooray, football, let's get drunk. That felt more accepting than, you know, than Joseph just sort of saying that.
We didn't get much of the story on Friday, did we?
Hang on, we haven't said though. What? They go in and then Michael comes and goes, but you didn't put it into context. Michael comes in and says, oh, come outside, there's someone special. And he goes, oh, I wonder who this is. And I was like, oh, is it DG?
DG did get a mention earlier,
forgotten about Danny. And they go outside. He's standing out there and he's got his bottle and he's all ready to have a celebration. And they all kiss, and it's Coronation Street's first
kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Post-COVID kiss. So that was good. I read a little bit about it beforehand because I'd seen a spoiler about it, and so I go, oh, did they bubble up or something? And yes, they did. So it looks like, I guess it means that if they can do it for them, then maybe they can start to do it for a few more.
Well, I don't know whether it needed to be done. The only time I felt like, I really don't see, this feels like awkward to me and they needed to hug, was when Alina and Tyrone agreed to have a baby. And I felt like that needed a hug.
That needed a hug this week.
But, you know, I think I really liked the fact that the first kiss that they did was, you know, such a meaningful and significant kiss for Pride Month and for the character of James. But I did not need the round of applause and everybody on the street like it was the blimmin' Inter Pub Olympics again or whatever it was. It's, you know,
yeah.
I'm not in for that kind of stuff.
I think it would have been more significant to me if there'd been any kind of a build-up, because this story has been on ice, as I say, for like a year pretty much, and then we have Monday to Wednesday and we're there already. Like, if we'd have had months of,
well, it's also,
will they, won't they?
And also, I don't care about James particularly. No offence, James. And also, don't know who Danny is.
Exactly.
So, like, it was really nice, but it would have been even better if I'd given a crap about either of the characters.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, totally.
But anyway, whatever. It was, it's
even if it had been like, you know, Asher and Nina maybe, and they'd had some reconciliation, because
I know,
they
but the
were
thing
kind
is,
of
though,
sweet earlier this year.
To be
it
fair,
didn't really work.
I can't imagine any other characters, but James and Danny, eliciting that response, because we were watching them clapping, and the claps for us were for not just the fact that he came out as gay and for Pride, but also the first kiss on Coronation Street in over a year. So that's what the applause and the cheers were like. Hooray, we're kind of finally getting back to normal after a pandemic, after months and months of fear and death. Suddenly, happiness, romance, love, everyone clap. I don't imagine any other characters, people like lining the streets to clap them, because in the show, the world of the show, they were clapping like overcoming homophobia in football.
Yeah, yeah.
And also celebrating the fact he got promoted, which I think is probably, you know, more money.
But is he still going to be living at number 3 with his parents and his brother?
Yeah, do you think Aggie and Ed are like, hooray! So this means you're going to move out, right?
Friday, or Danny stays overnight, doesn't he? He comes down and Ed's beaming
happy,
about it. He's
which
like,
is funny because, this was all the drama that was caused when James came out was all because of Danny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he comes down the new banister, doesn't he? And then there's a reporter that comes to the door, still wanting more gossip. And Danny sort of shows him the door and says, "Oh, I'm their butler," which is kind of funny. And basically, all that happens on Friday is he's on the front page. They managed to use
the Weatherfield Gazette.
Yeah, with that publicity shot from a year ago, that one of James looking all angsty in the changing rooms when they were gonna have. You know, it was for that scene when one of his teammates was nasty to him in the changing rooms, and he stands up to him, and they had one of these these posh atmospheric photo shoots. I don't know how they managed to get hold of that, really, but yeah,
the headline is out.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was a subscriber to the Weatherfield Gazette, I'd want my money back, because there's a section specifically for football at the back of the magazine, at the back of the newspaper. It doesn't need to be on the front of the thing. It should be on the back with all the other boring football news. No, it's boring football news. I'm not interested.
I wasn't sure about how they had out just tucked into the left-hand corner of the picture. Just thinking about the layout of the front page.
The whole thing.
And you had a problem about an exclamation mark touching an advert.
I was really mad about it.
On Monday's Gazette.
The spacing is terrible.
That shows how much we weren't really paying attention to the show ourselves itself, that we were picking up things like that. Anyway, Danny
Michael's
gets a
mad
job.
about it. James doesn't care.
Yeah, and then Danny looks like he's going to get a job at the bistro, which ties it up all very neatly and nicely. Because Debbie marches in, and James says, "Oh, we could work for you," and Debbie's like, I maybe handily need a chef at the moment. So they're building up their bistro staff now, aren't they? They got Danny, potentially. They got Curtis. Who else is? Maybe that's it at the moment.
Gang. Daniel does still work there, no?
No, I
or does he work at the Weatherfield Gazette now? As well as being a teacher.
Who knows? But Daniel's article that made the front page on Monday, didn't it? The double scammy. I'm just thankful that he didn't mention that. What would they have led with otherwise?
I don't know.
Daniel hadn't come along and saved the day. Hold the front page.
This is why I couldn't work in local news because the stress of not knowing. Like I only have to come up with one cover every month, and if I haven't got the cover in the first week, I'm like, oh my god, what's going to happen? I'm so nervous.
And this is the daily thing, yeah. Anyway, so are you glad this is all out in the open now, even though we kind of weren't completely sure whether it was out already? It's good.
Again, I can't really my outrage at the fact that this is even a thing kind of clouds my thoughts about the story itself, because the world of Weatherfield, it seems as though, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, in real life, this is still a massive problem for football. So is it really right to go, oh, good, I'm really glad that this happened on Coronation Street? It just kind of makes it seem worse that it still carries on in real life.
It doesn't feel that this story's in any way big enough that it is going to make, footballing types go, hang on a minute.
Oh, it shouldn't be horrible.
I shouldn't be a bigot.
Because
Corrie aren't making a big thing of it. They're like,
I don't know.
They're putting it out for 2 weeks, once every 6 months, and you want to change the world with that?
Well, it's a start. I mean, Hayley being transgender on Coronation Street led to real social change and acceptance in this country.
But that's where they had a very compelling character. They had a story that continued over the course of months and years.
James?
And this one just doesn't. It just feels like they've misfired it.
The thing is about Hayley's story is that we watched her overcome the challenges and win people around and confront bigotry head on. And she was in it for so long that the laws changed and we got to see her actually get legally married to Roy. And it just feels like with this James football story, they've gone, well, that's it then. There's no more problems for him.
Glad we solved that one at last.
Yeah.
I assume that there will be some. I kind of hope so, because I don't want to, find James boring, but he's just a bit of a non-entity of a character, and Danny's even more so. Danny seems nice enough.
I know they both seem nice enough, but like that's good for if they live around the corner from you.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Danny and James are a nice couple, aren't they? Not to watch on telly though, necessarily.
Yeah, and so you've got Danny and Curtis, who are both
bland,
personality-less, but they're empty vessels, aren't they? So maybe something will happen with them over the next 6 months.
Well,
possibly.
There's no denying this was a very meaningful story, and this moment was a very positive one, and it does mean something to have it on Coronation Street during the Euros, because it's going to be on when people are watching football.
Yeah.
And people are going to turn over to Coronation Street or finish watching the match and then watch Corrie and see this really significant thing. And perhaps some people will be challenged to change their perceptions. But
it's one of those things that if it makes one person change their mind or makes them think again, then...
Or you can just go, is this really anything that I need to concern myself with? I don't really know. But then again, I mean, I honestly also do think that with stuff like homophobia in football, it's probably only about 1% of all the people have a problem with it. But that number, if they're the ones that are making noises during a match and booing and making horrible comments, you don't need any more than that to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it must be like to be James and have to deal with the fact that not just people are racist towards you, but also homophobic.
I kind of hope that the story will go into that, because if they all tie a nice little bow on it and say it's sold and James doesn't get any... Yeah, exactly, we're totally naive.
I don't think they will.
And I think it would be good for James's character, because he is a bit, a bit soft.
But at the same time...
For him to fight against it.
But this is what I mean about, I don't need it to go into that territory now, because it's Pride Month, and I feel like we should... The spirit of Pride is to be proud of yourself and to celebrate who you are. And we don't need to be reminded about homophobia, because we all know, even more so if you're gay. You don't need to be reminded of it during this month.
Yeah.
So let's just celebrate this relationship and this love and acceptance. And then we can come back to tackling homophobia and the trials that James will have to overcome at a later date. But I just think it would be almost, not disrespectful, but it's not, we don't need to focus on that right now. That's what I'm saying. Just have a happy, positive moment and then circle back round. So do you want me to tell you about what happened to Gail?
Yes, what has been going on with the Platts this week?
Now, you made me read this, because you've done with Gail now.
You can read it however you want. My notes say Comedy Gail's doing a comedy singing again. I'm sure that when people saw that, they knew what I was going to say about it.
But I'm saying, you've been done with Gail for a while, but I think this week you just kind of wanted her to die.
No, I did not want Gail to... maybe it would have made things easier if that heart attack had been a bit... No, there's still... I'm sure... There's...
Something redeemable about Gail.
There is something redeemable about Gail, but having her start the week doing a stupid singer again...
About being an octopus.
And being an octopus, it's like, seriously? That's just given they just don't know, is it? They
don't
know what she used to. Oh, anyway.
So she's having a singing, and David is making fun of her, as David does. Nick comes round and wants to know about Sam, and Gail says, I literally can't tell you because Natasha says I'm not allowed to. And David says, oh, for God's sake, Gail, just tell him. And Gail's like, no, I'm not allowed. Then Sam and Natasha are walking along outside the tram stop, and Nick runs into them. Natasha's not happy that he's there, and Sam's like interrogating him and having a chat with him and everything. And then Natasha whisks him away because she just doesn't want them. Honestly, Natasha, you're playing a stupid, dangerous game here if you think that you can just send Sam round to Gail's house and Nick will never see him.
I know, it's ridiculous. I'm going to cut you out of my life completely, but your mum can still homeschool him.
Yeah.
Why is he being homeschooled again?
Because he's so smart.
I can't remember. Is it to do with the goons coming after him or something?
I don't know. I don't know why you'd ask Gail.
I know.
What does Gail know about anything?
Nothing.
On Wednesday. She don't even know what the lyrics of songs are.
They could just get Daniel to do it. He's already
doing Daniel's doing it.
He's doing a bit of tutoring. Why tutor? Why get Gail? Remember. Why not get Kirk to tutor him maybe, or...
Why not? You might as well. On Wednesday, David's ribbing Gail about schooling Sam. Says Nick should do it. And Gail says, oh, I feel ill. And I was just literally talking to my mum about heart attacks in women and how they present differently. Because I said it on the show before, on the podcast, that women... Because you know the classic symptom, there's like, oh, nobody knows this, but you always get a pain in your left arm when you have a heart attack. And that's like everyone's fact that they think nobody else knows. But everybody knows that.
What about smelling toast?
That's when you have a stroke.
Oh.
You can smell toast, but you can't put your arm up to ask for some. That's how you remember. But in women, we don't have arm pain. We have other stranger, less obvious
Well, Gail thinks that
symptoms,
she's maybe got some indigestion.
Including, feeling just unwell. Which is not helpful, is it? Thanks, biology. Yet again. So anyway, Nick tells Sarah he's selling his Underworld shares because he wants to spend more time with Leanne. And Sarah's like, oh, no. David goes on the phone to Gail and tells her there's a leak.
That was a weird scene, wasn't it?
It was a bit
weird. That was very...
This was the week to me in general, though. It felt like there's a lot of, like...
He put more effort into that than he really needed to. He got a load of pans on the kitchen floor, squirting them with a water pistol, to try and convince Gail to say... Rather than just phoning Gail up and saying, there's a leak.
I know. So anyway, she rushes home with Sam, and David says, it was a joke. I just wanted Sam to be here so Nick could see him. And Sam says, please, can we? I won't tell anybody. And Gail says... No, this is a bad idea. And then Nick comes home and it becomes apparent this is David's idea. He's cooked up all by himself because Nick didn't know anything about it either. And he's like, no, I can't be here. I've got to go. If Natasha finds out, she'll go mad. And Gail's like, I can't be bothered with all this arguing. Come on, Sam, let's go. She goes outside and has a heart attack. And Sam's there going, oh no, I think I know exactly what's going on. And he goes in and he's like, excuse me.
Yeah, Nick and David are in the middle of
They're arguing and he's like, Granny Girl's having a heart attack.
David is just complete denial.
David's like, no, you're not. Whatever. Sarah comes out and she's like, what's going on? And Gail's like, I don't want any of you. I want my mum. I'm going to the hospital. Because they're all bickering. She's like, this is your fault. All you bickering, all you kids, you're such pains in the bum. You've given me a heart attack. So... She goes to the hospital with Audrey and leaves all them behind. At the hospital, Audrey's rapidly become my favourite character of all time, I think. She's there at the hospital with Gail and she's just eating grapes. And Gail's like, you didn't need to stop and get me grapes, Mum. You could have just come straight to the hospital. And Audrey's like, no, I was buying grapes when I found out you were in hospital. So that was lucky, wasn't it? So she's there scuffing Gail's grapes. And Gail's moaning about how awful her children are and how she wants...
She's just saying how much drama there is in her life, like, and everyone takes advantage of me, and I've been running myself ragged being a mum for 40 odd years.
Like when I had my kids and they were young, I was excited about what it would be like when they were grown, and they just walk all over me. And Audrey's like, well, it's kind of your fault. You're a bit of a doormat, really, aren't you? You should be hands off like me. and Gail's like, yeah, you are a bit useless. And Audrey's like, no, it's benign neglect. I read about it. She's so great. The thing I love about Audrey is that Gail's literally there going, Mum, I've had a heart attack. My life is so stressful. I can't cope with my children. What should I do? And Audrey's like, just be a crap mum like me. And Gail's like, you failed me. You failed me as a child. And Audrey's like, whatever. Grapes. She doesn't care. She's great. So anyway, she's like, I thought everything would change when I bought the house, but turns out that nothing changed, and I never get anything back. And Audrey says, who do you want to be? And Gail says, a person. Haven't I done my bit, ma'am? I kind of sympathise. Well, I definitely sympathise to her with Gail, because I think lots of women think that having children will fulfil their purpose in life. And then when the kids don't give a crap about you and just take advantage of you, or just don't care, they don't seem to care about you at all, what are you supposed to think then?
Don't know. And I guess we'll never find out.
Well, like I would love to have children, but sometimes I think to myself, is it better to not have any than to have one who just is like, turns out like blimmin' Terry Duckworth or something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't know.
David.
Yeah. So anyway, she just fed up because she feels like her identity is being stupid Gail.
Yeah.
Which, is she wrong? Not really. Audrey goes back and she tells David and Nick off about taking advantage of Gail. And she says, Gail's going to leave Weatherfield altogether.
Oh no.
And everyone goes, no, she's not.
Well, that didn't make the headlines when Ken said that he was leaving the street last year, did it?
Well, this is the trouble.
Just goes to show how much the viewers like.
No, because we haven't actually had it on the show on TV yet. Will there be articles on Wednesday night going, shock, horror, Gail leaves Weatherfield?
Curry fans stunned by the revelation that Gail is leaving Weatherfield.
I mean, she already went to
she went to Thailand, didn't she? Came back with her plat. She's not going anywhere, is she, really?
On Friday, it's Leanne's birthday.
Happy birthday, Leanne, and me, and Sue Devaney.
Nick and
Lee Boardman.
Simon jump out and say, surprise! And again, I've said to you before, it's not a surprise, is it? Because it's a birthday. She gets birthday shoes, which was quite nice. Nick and Sarah are talking about something or other at the factory, and he's like, oh, I can't do that. I'm seeing to Leanne all day. But, whatever. He goes to get Leanne's birthday cake from the cafe. Carla's in there and he says, will you sort this deal out for me that Sarah's banging on about? And she's like, no way, I don't work there anymore. Sarah and David go to visit Gail in the hospital, and it's been confirmed that she's had a mild heart attack. And David's like, whatever, I don't care. And Gail says, I need peace and quiet, and gaze into a pond. And while she's
not too late to fill the sinkhole up with water,
I know.
And she can stay there. We saw evidence of the sinkhole this week, didn't we?
Yeah, there was some
railings up when David and Ryan were putting the washing out together at last.
Can I just say, forget talking about being progressive and saying, isn't it wonderful that we had a gay kiss as the first coming out of lockdown kiss on Coronation Street? Forget that. 2 men putting the washing out. My heart broke. I was so happy. I was like, I'm so glad I lived to see this on television. 2 men just putting the washing out. Progress.
What times we live in.
But they were both doing it wrong. But anyway, I'll tell you why later.
Yeah.
So you said about the sinkhole, but we're not talking about the sinkhole. We're talking about the fact that she wants to relax. Sarah gets a call from this client. What's the client's name? Georgie Porgy or something? She's like, oh no, I can't believe this.
It's like JLF, JLS, I don't know.
J.R. Hartley.
Yeah, that's the one.
The client's been abandoned. So poor Gail's trying to talk to her children about the fact that she's had a heart attack, and Sarah can't even get off the phone for 5 minutes. She rushes off and nags at Nick for abandoning the client. Says, "Oh, you should do your job or find someone who can." She's going to live to regret that because later on, she's talking to Adam about the fact that she wishes she could afford to buy Nick's shares of the factory, but she can't. And Adam says, oh, I'll give you some money. And I'm like, I thought you were married. What's going on here? This is very strange. I don't understand this at all.
No, like, isn't what hers is his? And
well, she's like,
they got their own separate...
I couldn't accept that money from you. What? I'm confused. Like, surely she should come to him and say...
I think maybe they've forgotten that they're married.
I don't know. Some people have different ideas about finance. We all share everything, don't we?
Yes.
Because I thought that was the deal. I didn't know I could say no. But anyway, he's like, oh yeah, I'll invest in it. And Sarah's excited. And I just find it a bit weird when you have a married couple and one of them's grateful that the other one's going to help them with money. Like, okay, surely you both benefit from this if it works out all right anyway.
He was only going to be a silent partner as well, wasn't he?
Well, he's going to, yeah.
Do you remember when he first came back into on his last return, and he swaggers onto the street with his big cigar, and he goes into the office basically remember me, I'm Mike Baldwin's son.
Yeah.
And he's like, he wants to take over. He kind of sees this as his empire, and
well, he points out that this is like his legacy.
Yeah.
And I guess it was worth doing because probably lots of people have forgotten or don't really think about the fact that he is Mike Baldwin's son. And like you said, when he first came into the show, there was a whole plot about him wanting to take his birthright.
Yeah.
So this is just another sort of manifestation of that, I guess. So they go to the Rovers. Sarah's phoned Nick up and left a message on his phone to say that she wants to buy his shares. And she's like, oh, guess what? I've got some great ideas about the factory because nobody listens to me. And I'm thinking, it's probably right that nobody listens to you, Sarah, because you don't seem to know what you're talking about. Anyway, yeah, the website, she said, oh, yeah, the main thing is to sell clothes cheaply and something to do with, I can't remember.
She's been working there for a fair while now, but she's shown me no reason at all to have any faith in her being able to run this single-handedly or, with anybody, really. She doesn't feel like the factory boss. She seems like it was like the storyline has decided, let's put her there for a bit because they need a boss temporarily, and she's just stayed there. She's just hung around.
She makes about as much sense working there as Toya does. Speaking of Toya, she turns up at Leanne's house and finds out about the fact that Nick's selling his shares of the factory. She gives Leanne presents and
candles.
Leanne's like, oh, great candles, and she goes, Toya says, oh, there's also a voucher for a chocolatier in town who teaches you how to make chocolates, and you could take Nick or me. I don't know. I don't mind.
Toya's inclusion in this scene seems fairly superfluous, but it's like one of these things that it's Leanne's 40th birthday, so maybe Toya should be there, but we don't really know what to do with her. Not complaining about seeing Toya, obviously, but the scene could have happened just the same without her.
And I can't remember whether Toya is supposed to be vegan or not, but I know she's a vegetarian.
No, she's definitely vegetarian, yeah.
So you can have as much chocolate as you like then, can't you? That's just cheating, really, isn't it? Nick comes in and says, guess what? I've sold the factory. It's all done and dusted. I'm going to make a big announcement. So he goes to the factory and he's like, everybody, gather around. You too, Beth.
Yes, Beth was back this week, wasn't she? That was nice to see her.
Everybody, listen. And Sarah's there going, oh, good, yes, great. They're going to announce that I've bought the factory. And Nick goes, I'm going to reveal to you the new majority shareholder. It's somebody you all know and love. It's Carla Barlow.
Carla Barlow. Well, he says Carla Connor, doesn't he? Yeah. And she comes out and says it's Carla Barlow.
It's Carla Barlow. And Sarah's like, what? And Sally's like, oh, I'm so glad it's you. I would have wanted
Sally was funny though, wasn't she?
Fantastic.
She was a sucky
and Sarah goes, Nick, come over here. Excuse me, didn't you get my message? And he's like, nope. Too late. I've already exchanged contracts. Again, another speedy solicitors.
Yeah,
I tell you what, it does
Underworld
help to
and the Rovers this week.
I want to know
both rubbing our noses in it about our move.
How did they sort out the contracts where the local offices, like the local lawyer, one of them is the man who was supposed to be putting the money in for this, and the other one is his friend.
Yeah.
You think that Imran would say like, oh, hi, Adam, just giving you a ring because there's some paperwork just coming. No, they don't talk to each other. Anyway, Sarah says, tell Carla the deal's off, and Carla says, no, it's not. And Sarah was just gutted because she hates Carla.
Sworn enemies. She is the new Tracy.
But to be fair, Carla's much better at the job than she is.
She is, and I saw definite shades of old Carla in that final scene.
She gets the phone
got
out.
the swagger back, didn't she?
She's like, oh, it's Georgie Porgy's on the phone. Oh, who's my favourite client?
Yeah.
And walks off, leaving Sarah standing there like a little schoolgirl chewing her nails, going, oh, damn.
That was quite a nice surprise twist. I didn't know...
But it was that it could only have been Carla, though. When he was going, oh, I'm going to announce the new surprise owner of the factory, it's like... Oh, what, the person who worked there literally a week ago?
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking, oh, maybe they're going to give a proper surprise.
I know, but that just means it was just disappointing, because I was thinking it can't be Carla, because that's stupid.
It could have been Johnny, couldn't it? Because he was a factory boss for a while.
Well, I mean...
it turns out that he gave her the money.
Exactly. That's where the money came from.
Or it could have been anyone.
Because there's a scene earlier, which we're going to talk about in a minute, where... Johnny's moaning to Carla about he's got this money, he doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And then later on, Carla's like, money from my dad.
Yeah, so this is the biggest twist of the week that I didn't know was coming. I don't actually even know whether this has been, spoiled in the press, or whether it's going to be a surprise for everybody who watches it on Friday night or who saw it on the Hub. But when Carla walked out the door...
the energy to care.
I know. When Carla walked through the door, it's like... Oh, okay, they're doing this again, are they? Because Carla's been back and forth to that factory.
She's bought and sold that factory about 5 times. She's given it away for free. Now she's got it back again with, literally no input from her. She just went, Daddy, can I have some money?
It does kind of smack of of some of the storyliners or the producers or whoever it is in charge of it going... I don't know, Carla running the factory.
I know, but why
that's
do we
worked
care?
Before.
Because this is just the same as it was before.
Yeah, exactly. Unless they've got any radical ideas about how to make this different than before,
I don't care.
I can't muster the enthusiasm for it. Apart from the fact that, like I said, that
moaning at each other.
It will be that. Apart from the fact that it's maybe gets Carla her mojo back, then I'm all for that. But. And some of what we've seen with Carla and Sarah having a go at each other has been kind of entertaining recently, although it maybe seems like it's been artificially created, this tension between them, just so that this can happen.
But the balance is going to be off, because it's basically going to be Carla go and do what I tell you.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that, because I do think that Sarah is a useless boss, and having Carla lording it over, it could be quite fun.
The way that Sarah was kind of looking... After Carla was walking off and Sarah was standing there, she kind of looked like she was thinking, and I could imagine her thinking, well, I can't stay at the factory now.
Sarah was thinking that. I don't know whether she'd give it up that quickly.
She and Carla hate each other. She had dreams, and now they've been taken away from her. I don't know how you could go from, I'm going to own the factory by myself and here's my ideas that everyone always says is rubbish, to, oh yes, I'm going to have to work for this woman who says I'm an idiot and hates me.
She's got her pride, hasn't she, Sarah? So yeah, maybe she would find it a bit too difficult.
But if you think about the fact that she's just been given this kind of cash incentive by her husband, maybe she's going to try and do something different. Maybe she'll say, stuff it, I'm not doing this job anymore. I'm going to go and do my own business.
Maybe.
But I can't say that's exciting at all.
No. Any thoughts on the Gale thing? What do you should Nick be able to have secret seeings of Sam, or are you on David's side, or do you think that he was wrong for trying to engineer these clandestine meetings?
Well, from the perspective of the soap, I'm on David's side, but in real life I'd be on Natasha's side. But Natasha's being stupid because she's letting the kid around Gail's house as though that there's going to be no problem. Literally, the first time she goes around there after she told Nick, no more seeing my son, she bumps into him outside the tram stop.
Yeah, she's loitering.
She's supposed to be this successful businesswoman who's loaded and can afford, really expensive private tuition from Daniel for her child and telescopes and whatever he wants. But she can't afford an Uber to get him from the front door to someone else's.
The Manchester tram network is
I know
excellent.
The tram network is excellent, but if you're trying to avoid your child being kidnapped by drug dealers, perhaps you wouldn't rely on public transport. That's all I'm saying. The last person we saw getting on a tram was Sharon.
Very true.
So, how about that?
Yeah, she's probably just been laying in wait there, hasn't she? Have it. She has definitely gone now, by the way, hasn't she? Tracy Bennett. She put something on Twitter on Friday that was the end of Sharon for the time being, at least.
What do you think,
I'm on Nick's side with it.
I'm on Nick's side because all the things that were the problem have gone now. So why is she? In real life, yes, but in the soap, you're just being annoying.
No, I'm on Nick's side that he shouldn't be seeing
Oh,
Sam.
really? But the reason why he shouldn't see Sam is because of the drug dealing. And the drug dealers have all been banged up.
She's not been able to trust Nick. And I just think that if he plays along with Natasha's game and doesn't see Sam for a little bit, maybe she'll calm down and come to the decision herself that, okay, maybe we can start letting you have some, see each other again. But by doing this, by encouraging these secret meetings that are clearly going to come out at some point, it's just going to make her double down on not letting Sam have anything to do with Nick. We all know that eventually Nick and Sam are going to be, they're going to not be separated from each other. I still think that Natasha is going to, shuffle off this mortal coil at some point this year. But yeah, I think if I was Nick, I'd be like saying, David, keep your nose out. It's nothing to do with you, actually. I'm managing this my way. I shouldn't be seeing Sam, as hard as it is for me, really. As for Gail, I'd like to think that maybe she will make a change in her life. She has been a bit of a... She's dedicated her life to these kids for the past 40 years or so. But I think that she was being a bit... when she was saying, oh, they take advantage of me, I think that she's been almost imposing herself on them. There's been times when they've not wanted her meddling in their lives, and she's not been able to help herself.
If you lie down in a puddle and people walk on you to not get their feet wet, whose fault is it?
Which is what Gail's been doing, isn't it, really?
Well, that's what Audrey told her.
Yeah. So I'd like to think that that Gail will, sort her life out, not be a buffoon anymore. Say, right, David, you're not living in my house anymore,
kick him out.
You're a grown man.
Get your own house.
You're, 30-odd? Get your own place.
Yeah. You've got children.
Yeah.
Move out, you bum.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think sometimes Coronation Street don't like to separate characters from houses, and it kind of feels like David should live there forever, but also Gail should live there forever, which is why it's weird. It was similar when we had Eileen and Todd and Jason all living together in the same house for a very long time, and it's like, why don't these boys move out? The same with the Baileys at the moment. Obviously, there's not the same legacy there, but I think Coronation Street just needs to say, let's get David,
The weird thing...
David and Shona move out, let them have their own place. I think it would be really quite cool if they got one of the terraced houses of their own.
Yeah.
Because David, as a massive legacy character, I think he's earned the right to live on the main side of the street, as it were. Yeah,
definitely. But, it's weird because Coronation Street is leaving a lot of stories on the table because they can't tackle them, because it would only raise questions about how preposterous the living situations are. There are two massive issues that they can't really... they tried to tackle homelessness with Sean, and they went full hog with it, with him, staying in a tent. But a lot of characters on Coronation Street are actually functionally homeless, by which I mean they live in someone else's house, and they don't actually have a rent book or anything. They're just kind of casually staying with them, which is being homeless. When you think of homelessness, a lot of people think of the homelessness crisis as people, lying on, living on the streets. But actually, there's a lot more people who are doing what some of the characters on Coronation Street are doing, like couch surfing. And that just as much, it's not as dangerous, but you're still homeless.
They just don't make it out to be an issue.
It's not an issue on Coronation Street, but it really should be, because more people are starting to experience this issue for themselves. And we're coming out of COVID. We don't know what the impact is going to be on the economy and how people are going to survive. They're leaving that story on the table. They're also leaving the story on the table of people struggling to raise deposits to buy their first house. but start putting your foot on the property ladder. The age that you first do that is raising every single year. We were really lucky to be able to buy our own house when we did. It was a bad time, really, because immediately the value of houses plummeted. But a lot of people our age and younger just simply cannot buy their own place, and they're forced to rent, and they don't want to rent, they want to buy their own house. That's a story they can't do on Coronation Street. Number one, because people just live with their parents and they don't seem to want to live on their own. And number two, anytime you need a deposit, you know, someone just dies that you don't even know, or money, you find money in a bag, Rita gives it to you. People are always getting massive lump sums out of nowhere.
Yeah, they are. Speaking of people who are imposing themselves on family members and maybe need to think about moving out, Ryan and Alya, who are currently living at number 6 with Yasmin, who was very conspicuous by her absence this week. They kept having to explain why Yasmin wasn't in the scenes this week.
Ryan's like, where's your gran? And Alya's like, she's just literally standing just to the left of me outside of the camera view. Can't you see her, Ryan? And I was like, oh yeah, hi Yasmin.
Hi Yasmin, lovely top.
Yasmin's just gone upstairs because she's got a headache because of my DJing. All right, Ryan, okay. I'm starting to think Alya and Ryan have killed Yasmin and they've thrown her in the sinkhole.
And they're just talking about her to make it look like, just in case any of Jeff's cameras are still secretly videoing them, they need to keep up the story.
Maybe they've set the cameras up to record themselves talking, and then they can go, oh no, officer, we didn't know this was here.
So, well, apparently on Tuesday, Yasmin, I can't remember where she said she was, but we find out that she's definitely losing Jamila House now, isn't she?
Yeah.
The community centre is no longer hers. They're using it to cancel her debts. Sad times. So I wonder whether that's going to turn into something else soon, or whether somebody else will take over the community centre.
You know, the thing that we're just talking about people living in each other's houses, blah blah blah. The other problem that you're going to always have on Coronation Street is limited space to build sets and have interior sets. So
that's why we have this block of flats that Ray was going to build. It would have been perfect. Just build upwards.
Yeah, but I'm talking literally, physically, the space, the studios.
I know.
There's not space for everybody to have a set. So the fact that they're repossessing Jamila House, I'm wondering whether they've just got rid of that set and there's not going to be anything at the community centre.
But wasn't the
George wanted
the community centre actually filmed in the building? Wasn't that one of
there's bits of it?
Bits of it certainly weren't they? Yeah.
But
anyway,
they might have put something else in there now. I don't even know where the law courts are or anything.
No, I don't know. Anyway, the issue this week between Ryan and Alya is that there seems to be trouble in I will say paradise, but we've, again, as always, not been able to see anything about their relationship particularly.
This is what I said. I predicted this. I said to you, Alya and Ryan are a couple because they're united against a common foe.
Yeah, now he's fallen off the roof. What's keeping them together?
What's that? Just like Speed. In Speed, Keanu Reeves and Lady
Sandra Bullock.
They form a relationship because it was based on a problem that they both had to solve, which was the bus going too fast. I mean, I'd like to have that problem. Every time I go on the bus, it takes hours.
When do you ever go on the bus?
I go on the bus. What do you mean? I used to have to sit on the bus for an hour to get to the hospital.
Oh, right.
You don't know my life. Anyway, then in Speed 2, I think, is it Keanu Reeves?
I don't really
or
know.
Was it Sandra Bullock?
I'm quite proud of myself that I was able to name 2 Hollywood actors.
And they say, oh, how come you guys aren't together? And then they say, because we were only united due to the common goal of trying to stop the bus. And relationships that are formed in situations like that can't last. And that piece of relationship wisdom has stayed in my mind so long, and it's such an important part of my ethos in life. And
thank
now
goodness
I'm saying,
we're not fighting against some evil terror or speeding bus, otherwise we'd be finished. Yeah.
Alya and Ryan are doomed because their common enemy, Jeff, has been pecked to death. So now, what do they have in common anymore? Nothing.
Well, Ryan tries to get Alya to come on an indoor golf afternoon with him, but she can't do it because she's booked a spa afternoon for her and Yasmin.
If I was the bank manager, I'd be like, oh, I see, okay, right. So all these debts you've got, and we've agreed to do you a favour and take this community centre off you. Now suddenly all the money's turned up for you to be going on your golf trips and your spa days. Wait a minute.
And there was also in that scene, this is when they had the garden scene with him and David's kind of kind of jokingly saying, "Oh, you don't want to end up like me, you know, tied down, married, kids, and all that." And Ryan goes, "Maybe you're right. I'm
still young.
Yeah, I'm still young and cool and with it. I'm a DJ," which is what he starts to resurrect on Wednesday's episode. He's got all his DJ stuff out the attic or whatever, well, she wants to talk about maybe them getting a place of their own, but he's not really interested in talking about it.
No, he's saying, "I don't have a job, so I thought I'd get my DJ stuff out and sell it, so that we can get this money."
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
And then he's like, "Oh, it doesn't work. Oh dear, I'll have to actually get a job."
Yes, that's right. But so he goes off to the Rovers and has a bit of a mope to Daisy about how terrible his life is and has to go and get a job and everything. And she starts asking him about when he was a DJ in Ibiza, and it turned out that they maybe went to the same clubs or something.
I thought Daisy was saying, "Oh, if you're such a hot DJ, how come I've never heard of you?"
Maybe I was something. What it basically
Daisy
was,
never
it doesn't matter what
she actually means.
It doesn't matter what they were saying. All it was there for was, look, hey, Daisy and Ryan, watch this space.
Daisy respects Ryan's creativity.
So Alya comes back home later and finds Ryan doing a bit of online DJ streaming from the lounge, which is kind of funny. And
the kitchen.
Yes, he seems to be getting some very appreciative comments. It's going down well online. Alya wants to know Alya on Friday wants to know when Ryan's getting paid for this, because I saw a nice flat for us earlier, and he's not interested in listening to her. He's so obsessed with himself, and he's watching his video saying, "Look how cool I look."
Well, he's like trying to say, "Listen to this," and she's gone.
Yeah, so he goes over to speed dial later, and he gets a bit offended by the fact that Alya's getting music piped in when it should be him doing his DJ.
It's just literally just playing on the speakers.
But Kathy likes it anyway. And then at the end of the episode,
most restaurants don't have live DJs. No. You twonk.
At the end of the episode, we have more Daisy and Ryan, basically. And
I like your set. When's the next one?
Yeah, she's been watching them online, and she's quite impressed, quite taken aback by how cool he is.
Maybe I'll never do another one again.
Yeah. So nothing really happened here, did it? It was just sowing the seeds. But I just wish that I'd been able to get invested in Ryan and Alya as a couple, because they seemed all right. But
Alya's the sort of person.
Are they suited for each other? Don't know. Maybe.
Who wants you to, you move in with her and immediately she's buying things out of those weird catalogues that they send you, where you've got slankets and like special machines to open jars, like she's 65 instantly. And Ryan's like, "Oh, I'm going to live my dream, I'm going to be a DJ." If Alya was your wife instead of me, you'd never have done this podcast, because she'd be wanting to get paid straight off the bat.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand. You've got to put the hard graft in. You can't just do one DJ streaming set and then set up your Patreon and expect to immediately get all your funding.
What do you think of the potential of Ryan and Daisy together? I don't mind the idea.
Makes more sense than Ryan and Alya.
They probably do seem a bit more suited, but Ryan, I feel bad for Ryan that he's going to get himself involved with a nasty piece of work that's Daisy. And I have to say, I didn't really enjoy Daisy this week after maybe coming round to her last week. I think that she could end up breaking his little heart.
I know, but I kind of would like to watch her run rings around him, because he's such a dullard, isn't he? He's so dumb.
No, he's dumb. He's not dull.
Dullard.
Yeah, he's
like, oh yeah, and he's doing his DJ. I'm sorry if anyone is a DJ. I'm sorry, and I know that people talk about it, and like it is ignorant to think that DJs just press buttons. But what else do you do? I don't understand it.
You kind of dance around in front of the camera.
You stand there with your headphones and you go. I know this is low hanging fruit for a joke to make fun of somebody, but my God. What is he doing? I don't know what he's doing. I couldn't do it because I don't know what he's doing. What is he doing? Is he playing a track in another track? I thought all that a DJ did was pick the right tracks to make people like dance and like manage to transition one track to another track by like, I don't know, fading one into the other one and matching the beats, and maybe sometimes they do the record scratch. I don't know if they do that anymore.
I don't know.
I mean, I think there is a skill to judging the room and making sure it's really not about what you like, though, is it? It's about what other people want to listen to and picking the right songs. But I mean, I don't think it's hard, is it? No. The amount of times that you hear that, you know, so-and-so is also a DJ, and it's people that seem to me to be not exactly the most exceptionally intellectual people of all time, and almost anyone seems to be able to suddenly be a DJ, makes me think it's not that hard. Please feel free to tell me what the skill is. Because I'm assuming that Coronation Street didn't just pull it out of their arse, that you can do an online DJ streaming set that people literally want to listen to. Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Why can't... Probably. This is what I've never understood either. I never like listening to the radio. I don't get it. Why would you, with any song you could listen to in the whole world, let someone else pick the song for you? That's what I don't get.
I've never been a radio person.
Whenever I get into the car with somebody and they've got the radio on, I just look at them until they turn it off, because what's the point? Why are we listening to somebody else's music choices? Yeah. Are you that pressed for...
That's why podcasts are great.
Are you that pressed for your mental bandwidth that you can't drive and also pick the song that you want to listen to? Do you really need to outsource this to somebody else? I don't understand. I don't get it. I understand talk radio because, you know, we do that here. That's what this is.
Yeah, but we talk about what people want to... You know, people choose to listen to us if they want to hear about Coronation Street. But I don't understand talk radio when they could be talking about anything.
Well, the thing is...
maybe that's because I've just, you know, got my very narrow interests.
It's also when it's like... that you can tell it's literally time-filling. Not that we do that here, of course.
Oh, no.
But when it's like, okay, so we're now taking calls about funny things your cats did. And we're also accepting funny cat videos you've seen on the internet. And Doris has just seen a hilarious one. Tell us about it, Doris.
You expected me to be Doris, though? Sorry, I can't. I do have.
You've actually got a real life cat
that's just come to sit with me, and she's just enjoying a very nice chin rub at the moment.
I don't understand.
So I'm a bit distracted.
So anyway. DJing, fine. I think it's funny that it exists as a job, but
watch out, Ryan.
I guess the thing is, you do need DJs because you couldn't just have it at a club. It goes to a club, and then somebody's like, "Okay, has anyone got their iPod that we can just plug in here?" And we'll just put it on shuffle.
Gemma, what's been going on at the Rovers this week?
At the Rovers, Jenny is buying
it.
She is doing herself up. She's going to go to the solicitors, sign the mortgage papers, and Daisy's got the Gazette with the double scammy headline. She's hiding it from Jenny, and she also tries to stop her from asking Rita why the Gazette hasn't turned up, because Jenny's suddenly really passionate about local journalism for one day only. Sean sees Daisy because she's mad about the story now that she's lost all this job.
The income. She can't actually afford to buy that 5% now.
Do you remember last week? She was on the phone and she said, "My account's been cancelled. What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And we didn't know whether that meant loan or double glammy account. You said it was loan and I said it was double glammy account. It's obvious that was double glammy.
Okay.
Because she's still getting the loan because she can't afford to pay it back.
Okay, yeah.
So she's now out of a job because of Sean. So she crosses him off of the schedule, so he doesn't have any shifts.
So that she can get them because she wants to try and get as much money as possible.
This is the thing about the Rovers. Everybody seems who works there to see it as some kind of charity that is set up purely to give them money. They're always wanting shifts, aren't they? They're always expecting to get shifts, and they need shifts because they've got 4 children.
Ryan was talking a bit about it as well. I keep forgetting that Ryan works at the Rovers, which I would have thought that if we were going to have him and Daisy maybe getting into a relationship together, maybe we should have seen a little bit more. There have been the odd scene. There was one a couple of months ago where like she gives him the glad eye or something, but it doesn't feel like they're colleagues.
No, it doesn't.
At the moment.
And also, it seems a bit weird too that he's. I want to be a DJ. How can I do it? I know, the local Indian restaurant. Why not the pub?
Yeah.
Why not the bistro?
Yeah, maybe they just need to rediscover the Select.
Oh my God! Look at this
massive stage
Why
here.
Why has this been boarded up? Oh, because it's in the road. Yeah, the only reason I'm saying why speed dial is because up until recently it didn't serve alcohol, and I thought you kind of have to be a bit drunk to go, wow, what a great DJ set. But, you know, I'm just being cynical about DJs again. So anyway, she's mad. Also, let's just remind ourselves who works there. Gemma, Emma, Sean, Daisy, Ryan, Jenny, and that's it, isn't
it's
it?
a very, very young staff, isn't it?
I know.
I was kind of... I hadn't really
where's
noticed...
the brassy barmaid?
That it feels like they need to get somebody a bit more older and wiser and experienced.
But there's nobody like that.
Classic Coronation Street behind the bar staff teams, like when you think about Betty and Bet and Jack or Annie thrown in there or whatever.
It's always been skewed slightly older, hasn't it?
It feels like it's just a little bit young at the moment. I don't know who could.
No, because there's nobody like that in Corrie, like a glam kind of middle-aged or older woman.
Maybe they just need to invent a character to come in. I don't know. It feels a bit like a bit of a youth club.
It does a bit, yeah. So anyway, Gemma says, "Oh, well done, Sean, for getting the front page," and he moans about the fact he doesn't have any money because Daisy's been nicking his shifts and everything's going wrong. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say,
what
about this week is that we had a major hot pot revelation to the myth of the hot pot, the legend that is Betty's hot pot. They're rewriting history here a little bit. And this has got to make the papers. If we, forget the gay kiss, forget men putting laundry out, Betty's hot pot recipe has been given to more than just Sean. And we never knew about this. This is a revelation that we found out this week. This is big news.
I was a bit sad that Betty didn't herself get a name check. It's just the hot pot recipe.
That Sean is the
Betty
owner
erasure. I don't like this.
This is terrible. So anyway, there's emergency at the Rovers. Daisy gets told by Emma that they've run out of hot pots. And Emma says, well, Sean's quit. No, Daisy tells Emma that Sean's quit. And Emma says, oh gosh, but he's the only one that knows the recipe for the hot pot. Which,
she's only saying that to make...
No, but listen.
What?
That is true. That is what we had always thought.
Think that's true.
No, that is true. That was the fact that only Sean knew the recipe.
Betty bequeathed it to him.
Yeah, when she left. Or something.
Something like that.
Daisy says, look up a recipe online and make it. So, Emma makes it, but it's really bad. And Kirk, who's the one that has ordered the hot pot, doesn't like it and thinks that he wants his money back. Daisy's panicking. Gemma comes in and confronts Daisy about Sean losing the shifts. And Emma says to Daisy, you need to give Sean his job back because we can't make the hot pot. And also, we're going to go on strike if you don't. Jenny comes back from the pub. She sees Johnny. He's got the she says, I've just signed the mortgage papers. I'm so excited because Daisy's giving me the money. And Johnny says, really? That's strange because I thought that she was in trouble because of this double scammy stuff, and shows her the paper. She goes inside and calls Daisy to the back. And then Gemma says, Kirk, this is all a ruse. I don't know why anyone confides in Kirk about any kind of subterfuge because this is just going to blow his mind. This is all a ruse. Actually, we can all make the hot pot, not just Sean. But we wanted to trick Daisy into thinking that she had to hire Sean back. And this was the revelation that she's gone under the radar here. This is big news. Everyone knows the recipe, the secret recipe that has been only one person who works at the Rovers at any one time is ever allowed to know. It's like the Coke recipe.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd expect that if you were, that it'd have to be written down somewhere, and like Sean can't travel in the same coach as the recipe in case they both get blown up in a fire and then it's lost for all time. So anyway, I think this is...
He was making the hot pot that fortnight when he was homeless. That's what I want to know.
Exactly. If you think about it...
Maybe he puts them in the freezer.
It's ridiculous to imagine that only Sean ever knew the hot pot recipe, and it's also kind of dumb to imagine that you couldn't just change it slightly and nobody would notice. Anyway, Emma and Gemma decide to go on strike until Sean gets his shift back.
We didn't even get to see any chanting or placards or anything, did we? It was the most pathetic excuse for a strike we've ever had on Coronation Street. Ida Clough would be turning in her grave.
She'd be absolutely fuming. Ed comes into the back while Jenny's having a go at Daisy to say, is anyone serving alcohol out here? And Jenny's like, why is nobody working? And Daisy's like, oh yeah, I know what might have happened. Everybody's mad at me. So, later, Emma and Gemma are grovelling to Jenny. Sean comes in and Jenny says, right, Daisy, apologise. You get your shifts back, Sean. Everything's back to how it used to be. Daisy, you're in trouble. Sorry, Sean. Please, can you make some more hot pots? Jenny redoes the rota, giving Daisy hardly any shifts. Daisy complains and says, how am I supposed to pay this loan back? Jenny says, with a bit of belt tightening, I can just about pay the 5% loan that you took out. And
so
then
it's going to be 100% Jenny's, basically.
Yes, which is basically mine. And then Daisy's like, oh, but I'm still got a stake in it. And she's like, hey, like how you do? I'm paying your loan off for you. You're not getting any money out. You're not getting any share in it. And she goes, oh, can I be the pub manager? And I just love the question. Jenny's like, no, of course you can't be the pub manager. You're lucky you're not fired.
Methinks Jenny may have some a classic Coronation Street dire financial straits coming up.
Well, yeah, because Ronnie comes in and says, oh, I hear that you're going it alone. And they flirt with each other. Again. Out of... so confused. So I don't get why Jenny just didn't do this in the first place, but let's not go there.
It's possible that she could do it.
If it was possible, but it's just going to be a bit hard, but it's your dream and also where you live... Wouldn't you give it a shot?
And then the alternative is partnering up with Daisy, who is a massive flake. I wouldn't want to go to business with her. No.
I mean, it is possible that actually Jenny couldn't really have taken out a mortgage and a loan at the same time. I mean, that seems quite sensible because it's all under Daisy's name.
Yeah.
So, it just whatever, just forget about it.
Jenny has got the Rovers. I am happy.
Jenny's the Rovers landlady and owner. On Wednesday, Jenny's still not in a good mood with Daisy. And Daisy comes in and she's like, oh, Jenny, can I put the wash on, please, boss? That was a bit weird. Johnny says to Jenny, I'm going to a house viewing later, so I'll be out from under your feet.
Yeah, this Wednesday's episode, kind of, it all shifts more onto the Johnny and Jenny relationship, which is much, much better for me.
Johnny tells Carla about a place he's found to rent, and she's like, why are you not just buying a place? And he's like, I don't know. I could go anywhere, couldn't I? But I don't know. I don't want to. I want to stay here, I guess.
Yeah.
Why are you staying so close, she's saying?
He says that he's very happy for Jenny. He thinks that they can, get by fine.
And this is when, obviously, presumably...
Yeah, he realises...
Carla rinses him.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to spend it, why don't you give it to me so I can buy a factory?
He ends up getting somewhere in Maudsley Street, though, which
Maudsley Street is literally that one across the Ginnell from Coronation Street.
Is he renting somewhere, though, or has he bought it? Because I would have thought that they were all, houses to buy, like Coronation Street were, but I don't know. Anyway, so he's going to be close.
You can rent anywhere, can't you? Because anyone can buy a house to rent it out these days.
I loved the ending scene in this.
This really made me
very
mad.
Bittersweet.
Because it was like, how can you guys, right? So the ending scene is Johnny and Jenny having a drink together and laughing and reminiscing about this relationship that's literally only just ended because they both decided they couldn't be bothered to fight for each other. And they're talking about how great it was and...
making fun of Johnny's film preferences.
He says, oh, you're the best thing that ever happened to me apart from my kids. And she's saying, they're just teasing each other and having a really great laugh.
It just showed that they got a really great... Chemistry, yeah. Sally Ann Matthews and Richard Hawley, Johnny and Jenny.
Yeah,
they were just
weird. It's weird that they split up.
Utterly lovely together. And Jenny I was watching it, going, "Oh, this is lovely." But in the back of my mind, it's like saying, "You still figuring Ronnie Bailey's going to come and spoil this, isn't he?" I'd like to believe that they're going to get back together because this shows that they really
There's
could.
No hard feelings.
Don't tease me, Coronation Street. Don't make me think that this is going to happen.
This? Jenny says, just because we're getting divorced doesn't mean we can't be friends. We'll always be friends. ...
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, the promotion. We said this last week. The promotion for this week was versus like Tyrone versus Fizz and Todd versus Paul.
That for this summer, yeah.
And Johnny versus
Jenny.
Johnny versus Jenny.
Yeah.
So have we had that, or is it gonna happen later? Because
Johnny just throughout the whole thing seems absolutely fine with everything that Jenny's doing,
this is what I'm saying.
He's pleased for her, isn't he?
What the hell is
he's
going
really
on?
Supportive of her.
1 minute they're
moving
married
on.
and everything's fine and they can't wait to be reunited. Then she shags a guy and then they sort of go, oh well, no, this can't work. You can't be shagging other people, Jenny. She's like, oh yeah, that's true. Actually, we should just get divorced.
Over.
Let's just call it a day. Okay, yeah, no skin off my nose. All right then. Okay, well.
Didn't we have a perfect time? Weren't we brilliant?
Well, wasn't it great while it lasted?
If only we could, maybe get
back
together.
They don't even say that.
No, they don't say that. But
that's what everyone else is thinking. Like, what the hell are you doing then?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Whatever. She even says like, oh, Maudsley Street, I can look out my window and see you having a shower. Why are you spying on him naked, Jenny? He's still not over him. Very strange.
Yeah. Ronnie's still hanging around like a bad smell, isn't he?
I know.
He's going to come in. He's going to come in, and because Jenny's going to have financial difficulties, and
do you reckon?
Well, and because Johnny's tied his money up in the factory, he can't help. Although if he could, that'd be weird.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but I gave my money to my kid.
Yeah. And
Jenny's like, oh, nice to have kid. Rub it in my face.
Anyway, that was definitely my scene of the week. That one where they're just, talking about A Star Is Born and Lady Gaga and gay film and everything.
Judy Garland
on the same episode as James coming out on the gay kiss and everything. So maybe
it was funny.
It was funny. It was lovely. I absolutely adored that scene. But like I said, in the back of my head, I was thinking, don't get invested in this, Michael. That Corey's just gonna
teasing you,
ruin your dreams of getting back together.
So yeah, the question is that they seem to be all fine at the moment, but this really can't continue because it doesn't make any sense.
I like how amicable
it's nice that they're mature about it, but where's the passion? Maybe it is right that they should get divorced if they're not that bothered. It doesn't make any difference to our relationship if we're divorced or not.
Oh, well.
You can still enjoy a nice red wine.
Finally, this week, we've got Summer and her dire straits. She hasn't learnt how to do her injections yet. Billy's been jabbing her 4 times a day or however
I just really hated Todd today.
Todd being very
Friday.
squeamish about it.
He was standing there going, oh no, it's gross. I don't want to look. Oh, I know, but it's not about you, Todd, or you, Michael. You're not the one that's having it done. If you don't like it, go away. Stop making it into a big deal. He's making it everything worse.
He was a bit.
Absolutely. It was out of character, really, for Todd.
Yeah. Summer gets invited along to this Year 11 do on the Red Wreck by Ardy. So she's Year 12 now, but he invites her along because maybe he's got a little bit of a summer crush.
Yeah, this was Ardy and Summer and Ryan and Daisy.
Yeah. I think that could be a quite nice little relationship, maybe. We've been wondering about Ardy and his, when's he going to get his first girlfriend and everything. And is he going to be gay or whatever? Because Ash has been making fun of him about not having kissed a girl or anything. So I think this could be quite sweet. And the way they've characterised Ardy to be a bit.
I want him to be a mini Lothario, just like Dev.
Yeah,
but unsuccessful.
I'd love him to try. He's going to try some of his dad's lines, isn't he? I imagine.
Get a horrible bunch of his
Summer's
dad's
far
flowers.
Too smart to be taken in by any of that.
She's got other problems at the moment.
She has, yeah. But this must this ties into what was happening last week with the hairy hands bit, wasn't it? Because it was Summer and Amy that were talking about this hairy-handed teacher at school, isn't he awful? Yeah. And Ardy was looking at his hands going, oh, I hope my hands aren't hairy, and it must have been because I kind of fancy Summer. I want to do what she likes.
But also I don't want to have this sort of attribute that these two girls say is very horrible.
Yeah. I'm sure there was something else that they said, I like this in a man, but I can't remember what it was now, but maybe we'll find out, because although I'm sure we won't.
His dad owns a chain of corner shops.
I'm sure we won't actually see this this thing on the Red Wreck, whatever it is. We get to hear about it, but no, I'm all for a Summer and Ardy relationship. I'm not too fussed about the whole she's not going to take insulin.
About what's happening? But you haven't said.
Well, Summer decides that she wants to go to this thing, but it clashes with a clinic appointment where she's going to be taught how to do the injections herself. And she's like, oh, well, Billy, you can just keep doing it. And Billy's like, no, you need to grow up and do it yourself, really. So they get into another argument about it. And then she ends up chugging energy drinks at the end of the episode again, right. Which is surely going to send her into some kind of diabetic coma if she's not careful.
Yes. But you see...
Quite potentially on the Red Wreck.
This is the trouble, because all teenagers want to be a bit rebellious, don't they? And Summer's always been a very good girl. And this is like life or death. This is the only time in her life where being sensible, her life depends on it, and she's messing up.
It seems a bit soon for her to have a massive diabetes-related story, where she nearly kills herself so soon after being diagnosed.
No, because it's just come on, hasn't it? And she's still learning how to manage it. And then they probably don't have her doses correct yet. They don't know what's going to work for her. It's even if she was following all of the rules and doing everything she should do. She is she's still in danger because they need to sort of stabilise her condition. And let's not forget that we have just as much of a responsibility to our own health as Summer does to eat healthily and exercise. Just because someone has diabetes doesn't mean that she's got some kind of magic ability to manage herself any more than you or I do. And I can't bloody do it, to save my life almost. And yet this young girl who's just been diagnosed, number one, getting really bad, horrible, shocking news like that, and number two, then being expected to be absolutely perfect and sensible when she's been that all her life. You can imagine her going, well, I've done that, and look what's happened, so why should I?
Yeah.
But, we all know why. Of course we know why. But that doesn't make it any easier for her, does it?
No. So is
I think sometimes people that have good health take it for granted and imagine that the people who have, diseases and disabilities and issues, like they've got some kind of saintly ability or some kind of magical stoicism or dedication to health that we lack and don't need to worry about. But they're just, the same kind of people as we are, and they have different abilities and motivations, and they're no better at managing it than we are. Just they have to do it. It's not like they've got a choice. I just think sometimes we take health for granted, and we don't really understand how difficult it is. You can't just stop doing it.
Yeah. And
this is something someone's having to struggle with now.
Do you think that Ardy is going to have to save the day for her next week? Is he coming to rescue her? Is he going to give her the kiss of life or something?
Well, I don't think it's going to help. You can imagine her going, I don't care, and drinking a drink, and him going, don't do that, eat this carrot, or whatever. That's the antidote.
Right.
But you see what I'm... I don't know. But you see what I mean?
Yeah.
She's going to have a drama, and then she'll go, okay, I guess I have to learn how to do the injections.
Yeah, basically. Okay.
But I totally understand her. This is completely understandable, and I think it's important to show it too, because,
issues.
Young people who have had this diagnosis, or people who have had it in the past, will watch this and go, yes, there are elements of this story, and it's important for people to know.
Yeah.
Because this is what I said last week. Everyone just assumes, oh, yeah, well, you can live with that now, it's fine. What are you worried about? All right, then you do it. It's that easy.
Right, I am done with this week's episode. Having talked about it and had a bit of a laugh with it and everything, I still don't think that I'm going to give it a particularly high score this week. It just didn't really grab me. It didn't particularly grip me.
The pacing was off a little bit, I think.
So some of it was... The stories that were picked just weren't my cup of tea particularly. There weren't any massive shocks or revelations. Well, some of them were stuff that was sadly spoiled for me beforehand, which spoiled it for me. But yeah, I was just watching it this evening going, waiting for the next exciting thing to happen, and it never really came. Right,
so let's not slag it off.
I'm going to give this week's episode 2 pairs of Tyrone's pants in Fizz's dryer. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, it was a 2. It wasn't. It was a bit
ridiculous.
3 to me is a standard kind of fine week.
This was a fine week.
But no, I was watching. No, I'm not joking. I was watching this and thinking, Michael, I was a bit bored. So yeah, there's 2 pairs of Tyrone's pants in Fizz's dryer out of 5. 4
massive things happened. 5 massive things. Boat. Alina's pregnant. Gail nearly dies of a heart attack. 2 men produce the laundry. Gay kissing. Hot pot recipe is not a secret.
You give it your score then, Gemma. What are you giving it?
I'm going to give it 3.
3 what?
What did you give it? 3?
I gave it 2 pairs of Tyrone's pants and Fizz's dryer out of 5.
Well, I'm going to give it 3 secret hot pot recipes, even though it wasn't one of the choices. I can't believe you. This was a momentous week on Coronation Street.
Okay.
I learned so much about myself and Gail Platt.
I didn't.
She regrets her whole life.
Character of the week.
You know what? I've seen a lot of Gail's life, and I think she's probably right.
Character of the week this week for me. I'm kind of going between 2 redheads here. I did really, really like Fizz and appreciated her understanding, sympathetic, kind side to Tyrone. I was a little bit disappointed when she turned snittier towards the second half of the week, as understandable as it was when she found out this massive secret had been kept from her.
Well,
but then also Jenny this week was fun. I still do think that talking about Gail being a doormat, I do think that Jenny is still letting Daisy walk all over her a little bit. She kind of reins her in every now and then, but she still hasn't really spotted or dwelled on the fact that Daisy is a nasty piece of work, but I guess because she's family. But I really, really did love that scene with her and Johnny. That was by far my favourite scene.
But what about
of the week.
Ryan?
He was all right. He just didn't.
Would you watch his stream?
No.
Oh.
I think.
What about Gail?
No.
What about Audrey?
Audrey was okay, but she wasn't.
Audrey was in one scene,
one or two, three scenes maybe.
I love the way she was just like, you should just try not caring like I do. You still come crawling back, don't you, girl?
I am going to give this week's character of the week to Fizz. She was more of a main character. She was able to rise above it. She was able to support Tyrone despite everything that he's put her through. I'll give it to Fizz.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Fizz too, because I liked. I just thought
even when she ended up having that cup of tea and sympathy with Evelyn, that was quite nice. She kind of saw that Evelyn was hinting that she wanted a bit of sympathy, and she's like, "I'll put the kettle on then."
Yeah, and I also liked her sitting down with Tyrone to tell Ruby.
Yeah,
he's like, well,
yeah,
I don't know that.
Okay, so there we go. That's our scores for the week. Fingers crossed it'll be a bit more exciting for me next week. That's it. Let's move on to our next section.